Chapter 1793. Blood floated in the four Crimson Emperor Divine Prison. Lin Tian was sent flying. His body was covered in blood, and his divine power was in chaos. 180,000 ordinary creatures had died at his hands. His state of mind was thrown into chaos, and so was his fighting posture. "Take this chance, kill," Lan Tianjin sneered. When he had asked Yi Yinshang and Yuan Yunfu to plot against Lin Tian to seize the primordial pagoda, he had asked them what Lin Tian's weaknesses were. Later on, he learned from Yi Yinshang that Lin Tian cared about ordinary mortals and would save them. Therefore, he had taken this into account at that time. He had suppressed 180,000 ordinary creatures, all for the sake of letting Lin Tian kill them in battle. This was to disturb Lin Tian's state of mind and affect Lin Tian's fighting style. But he had never imagined that the effect would be so obvious, far exceeding his expectations. Of all the preparations the three of them had made, he had never imagined that the one who would play the biggest role would be the 180,000 ordinary creatures that he had thought would be the least useful from the start. Boom! He attacked, killing light intertwined, and his divine ability merged with the vision in his sea of consciousness. In the blink of an eye, it landed on Lin Tian again. Lin Tian was sent flying, and more blood splattered out. At the same time, Yi Yinshang and Yuan Yunfu's eyes were cold and emotionless. At this time, they also used their violent arts. Bang! Once again, Lin Tian was sent flying, and his entire body exploded. His divine power was in chaos. Using the sun's nirvana art, he quickly reformed his body. His state of mind was still in chaos, and the scene of hundreds of thousands of creatures dying to his fist kept replaying in his mind. Bastard! Blood gushed out of his mouth as he roared. Staring at Lan Tianjin and the others, he used his chaotic divine power to launch the primal chaos Empyrean fist. But now his state of mind was in chaos, and so was his divine power. His previous fighting posture was completely different. As soon as he charged over, he was sent flying, and blood splattered everywhere. Outside the four Crimson Emperor Divine Prison, Bai Ziki, Ling Yun, Fanning Xiong, and the others were furious. They had never imagined that Yi Yinshang and the others would set up Lin Tian like this. Inferior, shameless, bastard. And Ai Yao Yao was also enraged. At the same time, the boundless six-colored divine radiance surged. All of the hair on the little Taichu's body stood on end. The six-colored divine flames surged as the four divine phantoms manifested. The entire ancient site trembled as if it was about to be destroyed in the next moment. With the boundless six-colored divine flames and the four divine phantoms bombarding the four Crimson Emperor Divine Prison, it created a terrifying hurricane. The four Red Emperor Divine Prison shook violently under the little guy's furious divine power, causing Lan Tianjin's expression to change. The four Red Emperor Divine Prison was the core secret skill of their Chi-Yu world. Moreover, it was engraved by an elder of the royal family. Even a half-step divine god would find it difficult to shake it. But now, little Taichu, who was only at the peak of the immortal king realm, was able to shake the boundary of the four Red Emperor Divine Prison. Boom! The four Crimson Emperor Divine Prison shook violently, distorting and distorting. However, although the little guy's power was terrifying and caused the four Crimson Emperor Divine Prison to tremble, it did not show any signs of being able to completely shatter it. Lan Tianjin and the others immediately relaxed and continued to attack Lin Tian. "Finish him quickly," Lan Tianjin said coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, with a boom, he held up a treasured cauldron that was intertwined with true God's might. It was a true God-level treasure. At the same time, Yuan Yunfu took out a treasured shield, while Yi Yinshang took out a short blade. They were both true God-level treasured weapons. The three of them each held a true God-level treasure and attacked Lin Tian. "Damn you!" Lin Tian roared, his divine power chaotic. He took out a broadsword that was also intertwined with true God's might. It was a true God-level treasure that he had obtained from the heavenly God-level ancient tomb. The four of them clashed again. Lin Tian used the true God-level broadsword to brandish the high heaven sword scripture. Sword energy flew out one after another. However, because his mind and divine power were in chaos, the battle was not as smooth as before. Bang! After clashing with the three of them, he was sent flying again. Half of his body was shattered. Bright red blood splattered in all directions. The death of a few 100,000 ants can make you so excited. To be honest, although it's good for us, it's a little funny. Lan Tianjin sneered. He attacked viciously, hoping to kill Lin Tian instantly and take the primordial pagoda. At the same time, Yi Yinshang and Yuan Yunfu also attacked viciously. Their divine light combined was almost unstoppable. Lin Tian roared, blood splattering everywhere. He waved the true god-level broadsword and fought the three of them, using all kinds of divine techniques. The destructive power of the three of them landed on his body again and again, sending him flying and splattering blood everywhere. Baiziki and the others were outside the four Red Emperor Divine Prison. Seeing this scene, they were shocked and angry, but they could not help. The four Red Emperor Divine Prison was too strong. They could not break it with their current strength. These three sons of bitches. The white tiger clenched his claws angrily. Seeing this scene, his heart was burning with anxiety. Bang! 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 Inside the four Red Emperor Divine Prison, Lin Tian was constantly sent flying by Yi Yinshang and the other two. Blood splattered everywhere. His god power became chaotic. His hand trembled as he swung the sword. The terrified faces of the 180,000 creatures when they died flashed in his mind. He couldn't erase them. It was as if they were swaying right in front of his eyes. Blood splattered from his body. He was sent flying again and again, but he stood up again and again. His mind was in chaos, his divine power was in chaos, and his fighting posture was in chaos. However, as he charged again and again, and as the destructive power fell on him again and again, his aura became stronger quickly. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! He stood up again, his body covered in blood. Even his hair was stained with blood. He glared at the three of them, holding the true god-level broadsword tightly and charging at them again. How tenacious! He actually didn't die. Yi Yinshang's voice was cold. It's no big deal. He's already an arrow at the end of its flight. Lan Tianjin sneered and said, "Work together. Next attack. End him once and for all." As he spoke, with a hong sound, the divine might on his body rumbled, activating the true god-level precious weapon to its limit. At the same time, Yi Yinshang and Lan Tianjin did the same, activating the true god-level precious weapon to its limit. Killing intent surged. "Kill!" Yuan Yunfu shouted coldly. The three of them stepped forward together, directly striding towards Lin Tian. Surging killing intent interweaved. The three of them moved together, three waves of destructive power surging, mercilessly crushing towards Lin Tian. It was also at this time that with a dong sound, a clap of thunder exploded in the sky. It was extremely ear-piercing, and the surrounding space became pitch black in the blink of an eye. Dense thunderclouds gathered in the blink of an eye, forming a giant lightning vortex in the sky. Within it, strands of blood-colored lightning interweaved, rumbling as if wanting to destroy the entire world. In an instant, everyone's expression changed. Heavenly Tribulation. Chapter 1794. Blood-red lightning intertwined, and a pitch-black lightning vortex appeared. A destructive aura pressed down, terrifying to the extreme. Someone is going through the immortal tribulation here? Yuan Yunfu looked at the sky, then shook his head. No, it can't be the immortal tribulation. No one's immortal tribulation has such terrifying power. On the side, Yi Yinshang and Lan Tianjin were also shocked. Looking at the boundless lightning in the sky, their expressions changed. Firstly, they were shocked by the sudden appearance of the heavenly tribulation, and secondly, they were shocked by the destructive aura of the heavenly tribulation. It was too terrifying. Boom! Thunder rumbled, exploding once again, the entire sky splitting apart. He entered the true immortal realm? Outside the four Red Emperor Divine Prison, by Zeke, and the others were also shocked. The might of the thunder rolled, and the entire world turned dark. The waves of destruction continued to descend from the sky, growing stronger and stronger, causing the entire ancient site to shake, as if it would completely collapse in the next moment. Retreat! Whooshing Crocodile gritted his teeth and asked by Zeke and the others to retreat. Now, Lin Tian had attracted the true, immortal tribulation, which covered a large area. They were also in the range of the lightning. Once the tribulation lightning started to press down, with their current strength, they would be in trouble if they stayed here. They could not resist the destructive power at all. In the blink of an eye, the group retreated far away. Boom! Thunder rolled, ear-piercing and soul-shaking. The world turned darker, as if the end of the world had come. Inside the Four Crimson Emperor Divine Prison, Lin Tian was surrounded by lightning. The vortex of lightning in the sky surrounded him, causing him to involuntarily tremble. He raised his head to look at the sky. The aura of destruction began to converge with him at the center. Yi Yinshang, Lan Tianjin, and Yuan Yunfu naturally felt this change. When they looked at Lin Tian, their faces changed again. You attracted it? Lan Tianjin was shocked. Almost at the same time, there was a loud boom. A huge lightning bolt came down from the pitch-black lightning vortex in the sky. In just an instant, the lightning struck the Four Crimson Emperor Divine Prison, causing it to shake violently. After 3 breaths, it shattered with a cracking sound. After that, the lightning bolt weakened a little, but the momentum and direction of its fall did not change. It continued to strike Lin Tian. At this time, Lin Tian's god force was very chaotic. However, his cultivation had reached the true god realm, so he naturally did not fear this first heavenly tribulation that had been greatly weakened by the Four Scarlet Emperor Divine Prison. He directly raised his hand and smashed it to pieces with a single slap. You attracted it. How is this possible? Lan Tianjin looked at Lin Tian, his face filled with disbelief. Beside him, Yi Yinshang and Yuan Yunfu were also shocked. Since ancient times, cultivators would only attract heavenly tribulation when they entered the transcending celestial realm. But now, Lin Tian had entered the true god realm and attracted heavenly tribulation as well. This caused their eyes to widen. The Four Red Emperor Divine Prison had been destroyed at this moment, and they couldn't care less about it. Kill! Lin Tian roared. When he shattered the first tribulation, lightning tribulation, he directly stepped toward Lan Tianjin and the others, closing in on them in an instant and swinging the Chaos Emperor fist. With a boom, as his fist smashed down, the space in all directions trembled, and then it immediately shattered. The majestic might of his fist was shocking to hear. Lan Tianjin and the others resisted with all their strength, but they could not stop it, because Lin Tian's cultivation was now at the true immortal realm, and he did not rely on elixirs to increase his cultivation. His battle strength was much stronger than the 3 of them. Pooh! 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 The 3 of them were sent flying at the same time, their bodies badly damaged. The 3 of them steadied themselves, their faces ugly. It was only a single punch, but the 3 of them were severely injured. Lin Tian's face was full of anger. After the punch landed, he stepped toward the 3 of them again, another Chaos Emperor fist bombarding them. Dong! A loud boom rang out, even though his mind was in chaos, causing his divine power to be in chaos, and he was severely injured. He had still stepped into the true God level. The Nature Celestial Tao and the Thunder Celestial Tao had both subconsciously evolved on their own, allowing him to naturally control the Nature Divine Tao and the Thunder Divine Tao. The might of the Divine Tao was mixed in the fist radiance, and its might was terrifying. Lan Tianjin and the others tried to dodge, but they could not. They were directly hit by Lin Tian's Chaos Emperor fist and exploded at the same time. The 3 of their divine souls were not destroyed. Their flesh and blood wriggled, quickly reforming their bodies. They were all shocked and angry. Damn things! Lin Tianan's face was full of killing intent. 180,000 innocent creatures had died under his hands just like that. This was hard for him to accept. Right now, he stared at Lan Tianjin, stared at Yi Yinshang, and stared at Yuan Yunfu like a god of death. With a rumble, he stepped forward, bombarding the three of them with chaotic divine power under the lightning. The three of them were sent flying again and again. Even though they were protected by true, immortal weapons, it was useless. They could not stop him at all. Die! Lin Tian stepped forward. The Chaos Emperor Fist's power became even stronger, as if it could destroy the world. It once again blasted toward Lan Tianjin and the others. Also at this time, with a boom, the sky exploded. The second round of lightning punishment descended. A river of lightning gathered, surging violently. Lin Tian's face was full of killing intent. He did not even care about the second round of lightning punishment. The power of his fist toward Lan Tianjin and the others did not decrease at all. Once again, Lan Tianjin and the others were sent flying. Their physical bodies were shattered again. Their divine souls were not destroyed, but they were full of cracks. It was as if they would be annihilated with the slightest touch. Also at this time, the second round of lightning punishment descended in front of Lin Tian, directly drowning Lin Tian. The destructive power was shocking. In an instant, blood spilled everywhere. Lin Tian was sent flying. Half of his body was in tatters, covered in blood. Boom! Golden divine light surged. He steadied himself, his eyes still fixed on Yi Yinshang and the others. His face was full of anger. He rushed forward again, not even healing his wounds, not caring about the destructive heavenly tribulation in the sky. The scene of 180,000 people being crushed under the might of his fist kept flashing in his mind. It made his heart tremble, and it made him extremely angry. He never thought that there would be a day when he would kill so many innocent people. Among them, there were even babies. Boom! The sky trembled and thunder rumbled. At this time, the third round of lightning punishment descended. Its speed was shocking. In an instant, it drowned Lin Tian and sent him flying with a bang. Blood splattered everywhere. Kids! In the distance, whooshing crocodile and the others trembled. Lan Tianjin and the others condensed their physical bodies. Their faces were extremely pale, and their auras were extremely weak. They looked at Lin Tian, who was sent flying by lightning, and then at the lightning vortex above their heads. Their faces were very ugly. Go! Lan Tianjin gritted his teeth and retreated, fleeing into the distance. At the same time, Yi Yinshang and Yuan Yunfu gritted their teeth and also began to retreat, rushing into the distance. Chapter 1795. Rolling thunder surged, striking down endlessly. The destructive aura was turbulent, rolling like an ocean. Lin Tian was covered in blood. He broke free from the third round of main lightning punishment. Ignoring the sea of heavenly tribulation, he picked up his true god weapon-level broadsword and chased after them. His murderous intent towards the three of them was extremely thick. As he moved, the heavenly tribulation moved with him. The lightning aura was terrifying. Boom! With a rumble, the heavens and earth trembled. The fourth round of the main lightning punishment appeared. It was a group of celestial mountains formed by lightning. It directly pressed down, and its speed was even faster than the third round of the main lightning punishment. In an instant, this round of main lightning punishment pressed down on Lin Tian's head. Once again, Lin Tian was drowned in it. Poof! Blood splattered. Under the fourth round of main lightning punishment, Lin Tian was directly blasted into the ground. A pillar of blood splashed out. In the distance, Bai Ziki and the others were panicking. They couldn't care less about Lan Tianjin and the others who escaped. Their gazes fell on the area of heavenly tribulation where Lin Tian was. Boom! Under the heavenly tribulation, golden divine light intertwined. Lin Tian rushed out of the ground with blood all over his body. His injuries were even more serious. He scanned his surroundings, searching for traces of Yi Yinshang and the others. However, he couldn't find them. When he was drowned by the fourth round of heavenly tribulation and blasted into the ground, the three of them had already disappeared without a trace. His body trembled, and he felt extremely uncomfortable. Ever since he started cultivating, even though his hands were stained with blood, he had never killed an innocent person. But now, Lan Tianjin, Yi Yinshang, and the others set him up like this. No less than 180,000 innocent people died in his hands. 180,000. Ah! He roared. His body trembled even more, and his divine power became even more chaotic. Bai Ziki, Wuxing Crocodile, and the others in the distance all had ugly expressions. They naturally knew that Lin Tian wasn't feeling good. Brat, look at the bright side. This wasn't intentional. Ling Yun shouted outside the heavenly tribulation. Yes, this isn't your fault. Wuxing Crocodile also shouted. Lin Tian stood under the heavenly tribulation, covered in blood. He clenched his fists so tightly that his nails dug into his flesh. It was true that he didn't intend to kill those people. It was a trap, but that didn't change the fact that those people were killed by him. How could he not care? How could he not care? The terrified expressions of those people, before they were blown to pieces, were still reflected in his mind, and he couldn't get rid of them. For the first time, he felt a sense of guilt, a deep sense of guilt. Boom! Thunder rumbled, and the destructive aura was horrifying. The fifth round of the main thunder punishment appeared, and the boundless destructive aura pressed down. The surrounding space was annihilated piece by piece. Brat, no matter what, we have to get through this heavenly tribulation first. The white tiger shouted. Lin Tian trembled again. He raised his head to look at the lightning that was crashing down from the heavens. He knew that he had to survive the heavenly tribulation first. With a boom, he directly propped up the four-symbol seal and faced the thunderbolt in the sky. The silver four symbols Tao diagram rotated, and with a rumbling sound, it collided with the fifth round of the main thunder punishment. With a loud bang, the space trembled. The four symbols Tao diagram that he activated shattered. The fifth round of the main thunder punishment weakened a little, but the momentum of its descent didn't decrease. It continued to press down. He gritted his teeth and activated the divine divination technique, the towering heaven sword manual, and other divine techniques one by one, bombarding the sky. This time, the fifth round of the heavenly tribulation was blocked and shattered by the divine divination technique and the towering heaven sword manual. Boom! The void trembled. At this moment, another clap of thunder sounded from the heavens. The sixth round of the main thunder punishment appeared. For a moment, streaks of human-shaped lightning appeared. They were densely packed, and it was difficult to count how many there were. These human-shaped lightning interweaved with a shocking destructive aura. As soon as they appeared, they directly pressed down on Lin Tian. Lin Tian activated the Heart Sutra of Sun and activated the Taiyin Celestial Seal. He condensed the power of Taiyin and blasted it at the human-shaped lightning. However, in the next moment, as he looked at these human-shaped lightning bolts, the horrified expressions of the 180,000 innocent beings who had died under the might of his fist before they died became even clearer in his mind. Then, for a moment, the human-shaped lightning bolts that pressed down seemed to have directly transformed into the living beings who had died in his hands, causing him to tremble immediately. Cough! He couldn't help but retreat. He directly coughed up blood essence from his mouth, and the Taiyin Celestial Seal that he activated immediately dissipated. Then, the sixth round of the main thunder punishment pressed down and drowned him. Everything in all directions was destroyed. In such a dense cluster of human-shaped lightning, Lin Tian immediately exploded, and blood splattered all over the sky. This scene shocked Bai Ziki and the others who were watching from afar. They were all anxious, but they couldn't do anything to help. This was because that was the heavenly tribulation of the reincarnation body of a true god. With their immortal king cultivation, they couldn't do anything. Boom! Golden divine light intertwined there. Lin Tian reformed his physical body and gasped for breath. He stood in the center of the heavenly tribulation, and his body couldn't help but tremble. It wasn't because he was afraid of the destructive power of the heavenly tribulation, but because the deaths of the 18 creatures were still lingering in his mind. In particular, the scene of the babies that were still in swaddling clothes exploding made his heart feel extremely uncomfortable. Killing 180,000 creatures by mistake is too big of a blow to him. It has seriously affected his mind, and Ai Yao said. She could guess the current state of Lin Tian's mind. In fact, there was no need to guess at all. It could be seen at a glance. At the same time, there was some shock in her eyes that Lin Tian could attract a heavenly tribulation when he stepped into the true God realm. However, this shock was still not as strong as when she was worried about Lin Tian's current situation. Those three sons of cheese. Wuxing Crocodile was furious. In order to seize Lin Tian's primordial pagoda, Lan Tianjin and the other two had used such a method to set up Lin Tian. Boom! With a loud sound, the heavens trembled. The seventh round of the main lightning punishment appeared, forming a lightning beast with a very oppressive aura. Then, the 8th, 9th, and 10th round of the main lightning punishment also pressed down together, each round more terrifying than the last. Lin Tian resisted with all his strength, using all kinds of great techniques. Blood splattered everywhere, and he was continuously injured. His aura was getting weaker and weaker. Dong! The heavens shook. The first few rounds of the main lightning punishment hadn't dissipated yet, but the 11th, 12th, and 13th rounds of the main lightning punishment pressed down. In the blink of an eye, Lin Tian was enveloped within, and destructive powers surged from all directions. Lin Tian circulated the Sun Heart Sutra and used all kinds of great techniques to resist, but the effects were very limited. He couldn't completely block it. Pooh! A bloody mist exploded. His physical body was directly shattered, and even a crack appeared on his divine soul. Yeah, Lin Tian. Outside the heavenly tribulation, little Taichu was anxious. Lin Tian's current situation was too terrible, as if he could die at any time. Chapter 1796. Lightning surged. Under the heavenly tribulation, Lin Tian's flesh was badly mangled. He was continuously injured. Wuxing Crocodile and the others were all extremely worried. The void collapsed piece by piece. Lin Tian activated all kinds of great techniques. Divine light rumbled as he resisted this true divinity-level heavenly tribulation. Only his current state was too terrible. Originally, he had used Yi Inshang and the others' destructive power to forcefully temper himself. Moreover, the death of 180,000 creatures was a great blow to him. Now, he couldn't resist this heavenly tribulation at all. Pooh! Blood splashed everywhere. Once again, he exploded under the heavenly tribulation. Blood dyed all directions red. His divine soul was not destroyed, but the cracks that appeared on it became even more numerous. His soul force was clearly much weaker. However, the 11th, 12th, and 13th main lightning tribulations still continued. Streak after streak of terrifying tribulation lightning continuously pressed down from all directions. It was as if they wanted to annihilate everything. Lin Tian reformed his body with difficulty. The 5 Thunder Heaven Shaking Art and Lightning Divine Way operated together. The reincarnation diagram also propped up together. Hong! 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 After a destructive collision, these 3 main lightning tribulations were finally completely shattered. However, Lin Tian's injuries were even more severe. He continuously gasped for breath. Even with the Sun Nirvana technique protecting his body, it was a bit difficult for him to hold on at this time. His body couldn't help but tremble. Even his vision was blurry. Boom! Thunder rumbled. Within the pitch-black lightning vortex, blood-colored lightning interweaved. The aura of destruction became even thicker. Without the slightest pause, the 14th main lightning tribulation appeared. It was a pillar of lightning with a diameter of no less than 10 zhang. In an instant, it struck down, directly submerging Lin Tian. Lin Tian was forcefully smashed into the ground. Surging magma surged up from the ground, burning the already scorched earth even more. Practically in the next moment, without any pause, the 15th main lightning tribulation appeared and directly struck down. This was a sea of tribulation lightning. Every bolt of tribulation lightning was horrifying. They directly submerged the space in front of them. The space was shattering. The earth was collapsing. In that place, the aura of destruction enveloped everything. Lin Tian was struck into the ground and did not come out for a while. Only blood splashed out from time to time. Seeing this scene, Wuxing Crocodile and the others were extremely anxious. Boom! The little Taichu's six-colored divine light surged around its body, and its big eyes were filled with anxiety. It flapped its wings and directly rushed into the range of the heavenly tribulation. The four spirits' protection was activated, and the six-colored divine flames surged to the sky, welcoming the power of the heavenly tribulation that was pressing down from the sky. At the same time, an Ai Yao Yao, by Ziki, Fanning Xiong, and the others also rushed over and attacked Tian Fa. Lin Tian was now completely suppressed by the heavenly tribulation. Even though they knew that with their current battle strength, they couldn't help at all, but they couldn't just watch as Lin Tian suffered. Boom! The sky rumbled, and the thunder continued. The 15th round of the heavenly tribulation's lightning tribulation suppressed everything, and in an instant, all of the attacking power of the group was shattered. At the same time, the majestic power of destruction was vast and mighty, and the group was sent flying. They all exploded into pieces one by one. Even someone as strong as the little Taichu was no exception. He couldn't block this kind of lightning power. With a rumbling sound, the bloody mist wriggled, and the group quickly reformed their physical bodies. Their expressions were ugly, but they didn't retreat. They all supported various great techniques and attacked the heavenly tribulation's lightning tribulation. However, with their immortal king-level strength, it was impossible for them to block the true god tribulation of Lin Tian, who was a reincarnated body. Poof! 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 In an instant, the group exploded again. All of them suffered extremely heavy injuries, and their divine souls were almost destroyed. It was also at this time that with a whoosh, a golden light rushed up from the ground. Lin Tian reformed his physical body and broke through the destructive power of the heavenly tribulation from the ground. When he saw the group of exploded physical bodies and cracked divine souls, he immediately trembled. "Get out!" he roared. The remaining divine power surged and protected the group of people's divine souls. Then, he threw them out of the range of the heavenly tribulation, throwing them more than 100,000 feet away. It was also at this time that the 16th round of the heavenly tribulation descended. The mighty Milky Way of lightning enveloped everything. With a puff, the physical body that he had just reformed exploded again. Blood floated in the air, and it was a shocking sight. Lin Tian, in the distance, the little Taichu reformed his body and rushed over with a whoosh. The six-colored divine light covered the sky. At the same time, Bai Ziki and the others also rushed over. "Don't come over!" Lin Tian's physical body collapsed, and his divine soul was full of cracks. Powerful soul power interweaved and swept the group of people out again, blocking them outside the heavenly tribulation. He knew that they wanted to help him, but he also knew that if they helped him, they would only lose their lives for no reason. His soul power surged, and he reformed his physical body with difficulty. He used all his strength to resist the 16th round of the heavenly tribulation. Blood continued to splatter, and his aura became weaker and weaker. In a dozen breaths, his physical body collapsed 7 times in a row, and he almost couldn't stand still. Boom! It was also at this time that the 17th round of the heavenly tribulation descended and fell on him, drowning everything within 1,000 feet radius. The terrifying destructive power surged, instantly shattering his physical body and striking his divine soul. Even someone as powerful as him couldn't help but scream, looking extremely miserable. Almost at this moment, there was a boom, and the 18th round of the heavenly tribulation descended. All kinds of lightning shadows appeared. There were angels with broken wings, headless knights, immortals with broken arms, ferocious ghosts, ferocious beasts, and blind blood shadows. In an instant, the entire ancient site trembled violently, as if it would collapse in the next moment. Lin Tian reformed his physical body with difficulty, but in an instant, he was enveloped by the endless lightning shadows. Blood splattered in all directions. Lin Tian roared and reformed his physical body in the endless destructive lightning. He used all kinds of great techniques, and blood splattered continuously. Boom, boom, boom. The thunder was intense, and the void was broken to the extreme. The 17th and 18th rounds of the heavenly tribulation exploded together. Blinding lightning instantly drowned everything, and it was so bright that it was difficult to open one's eyes. It created a violent hurricane, and by Zeke and the others who were rushing over were all sent flying, coughing up blood. Huge cracks appeared one after another, swallowing everything around them. Then, the sky trembled violently, and the pitch-black lightning vortex slowly dissipated, and the place became clear again. The earth was broken beyond recognition, and in the air, destructive waves intertwined, and it was difficult to dissipate. A group of people flew back from afar, all of them pale, and anxiously scanned their surroundings. Lin Tian's figure was completely gone, and not even a piece of flesh or broken bones could be found. Lin brat, where are you? Whooshing Crocodile's voice trembled. Lin Tian's figure was nowhere to be seen, nor were there any pieces of flesh or broken bones. Even Lin Tian's aura could not be felt. Could it be? How could it be? The white tiger was dumbfounded. At this time, Lin Tian's aura could not be felt in this space. It felt as if Lin Tian had disappeared in the heavenly tribulation. Lin Tian, little Taichu's childish voice was trembling, and tears kept falling from its big eyes. The six-colored divine light outside its body surged, shaking all directions as it moved quickly in this space. At the same time, the others were also doing their best to search. However, even after a full 2 hours, they still found nothing. Lin Tian's figure did not appear again, and his aura did not exist at all. How could it be? Chapter 1797. Lin Tian's aura was nowhere to be found. Fanning Xiong, Whooshing Crocodile, and the others were all stunned. They searched this place for an entire 2 hours, but they could not find Lin Tian at all. They could not find a single piece of Lin Tian's flesh or bones. They could not even find a trace of his aura. He had completely vanished. Lin Tian, Lin Tian, Lin Tian. The little Taichu's voice was childish, and it couldn't help but cry. Lin Tian was the person closest to it, even closer than the celestial spirit emperor. It was born in Lin Tian's body, and it was Lin Tian who grew up with it. Now, it couldn't find Lin Tian's figure in this place, and it couldn't even find his flesh and bones. Even his aura couldn't be found. It was as if he had died under the heavenly tribulation. The little fellow seemed to have lost its entire world. Really, could it be? The white tiger trembled. Impossible, Whooshing Crocodile said angrily. That kid is so tough and has survived so many heavenly tribulations. How could he have died under the heavenly tribulation? I don't believe it either. But now, the white tiger was also angry. They had been cultivating with Lin Tian for a long time and relied on Lin Tian in many aspects. Lin Tian had never hidden anything from them. Now that the heavenly tribulation had dissipated and they couldn't find Lin Tian or even sense his aura, it was very uncomfortable. Back to the 10 Directions celestial domain. Ling Yin clenched his fists. Whooshing Crocodile knew what he meant. Back! The immortal court in the 10 Directions celestial domain has his soul lamp of life. They couldn't find Lin Tian here, nor could they find Lin Tian's aura. If they wanted to determine whether Lin Tian was dead or alive, they could go back to the 10 Directions celestial domain and take a look at Lin Tian's soul lamp of life. They didn't believe that Lin Tian was dead, no matter what. The great figures of the Lord Theological Seminary had set up a powerful barrier around the ancient site. However, it only prevented outsiders from entering and did not prevent the disciples of the Lord Theological Seminary from leaving. Whooshing Crocodile directly made a move and tore open a space fissure. The group of people stepped into it and instantly left the ancient site, arriving outside the ancient site. Then it moved again, tearing apart the barrier of the celestial domain and returning to the starry sky. Then it returned to the 10-direction celestial domain. It didn't take long for it to arrive outside the celestial court. There were many immortal soldiers and immortal generals guarding outside the immortal court. When they saw Bai Ziki and the others appear, they were all shocked. Lord Bai, Lord Ling, Lord Yang, Bai Ziki and the others didn't have the time to deal with these immortal soldiers and immortal generals. They rushed into an immortal palace in the depths of the immortal court. There were many soul lamps erected in the palace, and their eyes were fixed on the one at the top. "It's on! He's still alive!" The group was pleasantly surprised. This soul lamp of life belonged to Lin Tian. Now that it was still on, it meant that Lin Tian was still alive and not dead. However, the next moment, the pleasantly surprised expressions of the group disappeared, and they became a little gloomy again. This was because even though Lin Tian's soul lamp was still on, its light was very dim. It was much dimmer than their own soul lamp of life in the immortal palace. It was like the difference between a firefly and the sun. This meant that even though Lin Tian wasn't dead, his condition was very bad. "He's not dead, but I can't find him under the heavenly tribulation. Where did he go?" Whooshing Crocodile looked at Lin Tian's dim soul lamp of life and clenched its claws tightly. "Find Misya and ask her to use the divine secret art to divine," Ling Yun said. He knew that Lin Tian was a reincarnated being, so it would be difficult for Yin Yup to divine Lin Tian's location. However, they could only hope that a miracle would happen and that Yin Yup would be able to divine Lin Tian's location. At the same time, this matter had to be told to Lin Shi, Ji Yu, and the others. It was impossible to hide it from them. The sky was a little dark, and there were dark clouds gathering. It was raining heavily, making pitter-patter sounds when it landed on the ground. This was a desolate world, and there was a lot of mud on the ground. An old man and a young boy were wearing simple clothes, and there were even many patches on their clothes. The bottom of their pants were stained with mud, and their clothes were also soaked by the rain. "It's getting dark. Little Stone, walk faster. You must return to the village before dark. There are many beasts at night," the old man said to the little boy seriously. "Yes, Grandpa." The little boy was very obedient. The old man and the young boy rushed over and walked very quickly in the rain. "Grandpa, there's someone there." At this moment, the little boy suddenly pointed ahead. In front of them, a young man was lying on the ground about 30 feet away. He was motionless, and his body was stained with mud. The rain drenched his body, and blood was seeping out continuously. The old man naturally saw it as well. He hurriedly walked over with the little boy, squatted down, and checked the young man's breath. "Grandpa, why are his injuries so serious? He's still bleeding." The little boy was a little frightened when he saw Lin Tian's injuries. He must have been attacked by the beasts outside. Those beasts are very fierce and will attack people when they see them. The old man sighed. The little boy nodded and said, "Then, Grandpa, let's save him. If this continues, he will die." The old man patted the little boy's head. He was very satisfied with the little boy's kindness. He said with a smile, "Of course, we have to save him." The old man was about 60 years old, and his body was still strong. He helped the young man up and continued to hurry in the rain. When the sky was completely dark, the old man and the little boy entered a village and returned to their home. They settled the young man in a simple thatched cottage, treated the young man's injuries briefly, and then walked out. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, in the thatched cottage, the man's eyelids twitched, and then he opened his eyes. The simple thatched cottage entered his eyes. The man sat up. "I'm still alive," the man muttered. As he muttered to himself, the man's body suddenly trembled, and figures with frightened expressions appeared in his mind. Cough! He couldn't help but cough, and blood gushed out from his mouth. The man was none other than Lin Tian. During the True God Tribulation, the last round of heavenly tribulation exploded. He was lucky to not die, and was swept into this world by one of the endless cracks after the last round of heavenly tribulation exploded. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." His body was trembling. 180,000 living beings died in an instant by his hands. This impact on him was too great. Until now, the terrified expressions of those people before they died were still constantly swaying in his mind. It was difficult to erase and could not be erased. He sat on the bed and only managed to calm down after a dozen breaths. Then he checked the condition of his body. Then he trembled slightly again. Retribution. He felt a little uncomfortable. Chapter 1798. He attracted the true God tribulation without any preparation, and his mind was in chaos because he accidentally killed 180,000 innocent people. It could be said that it was a miracle that he could survive the heavenly tribulation under such circumstances. However, now that his origin source was exhausted and his cultivation was lost, he was still very depressed. Compared to this, what made him feel even worse was the death of those 180,000 people. It was like a demonic mountain pressing on his shoulders. Heavy, oppressive. Creak! A sound rang out, and the door of the house was pushed open. A little boy opened the door and saw Lin Tian wake up, showing a trace of joy. "You're awake." The little boy was about 8 or 9 years old. He walked in from outside the house and said, "Grandpa and I saw that you were seriously injured outside the village and bleeding a lot, so we brought you back. You've been unconscious for several days." Then the little boy ran out of the door and shouted, "Grandpa, he's awake." Soon, an old man appeared in front of Lin Tian. He was about 60 years old and had some wrinkles on his face, but his spirit and appearance were very good. It could be seen that his body was very healthy. He smiled at Lin Tian and said, "It's good that you're awake. I'll just cook some food. Get up and eat some. It's good for your injuries." Lin Tian thanked the old man and walked out of the house to another small house. The old man quickly brought out the food. It was very simple, but the taste was not bad. It was noon. During the meal, Lin Tian learned a lot. The old man's name was Lu Xingda, and the little boy's name was Lu Xingshi. The grandfather and grandson depended on each other. Little Stone was the little boy's pet name. Let Little Stone take you around the village to familiarize you. You can stay at my house for the time being. It's not a problem. After the meal, the old man Lu told Lin Tian Dao. Lin Tian told the old man his name, and also that he had no place to go for the time being. Now that he had lost all his cultivation, he knew that this world was not the celestial realm and could not leave this world to return to the celestial realm or the 10 Directions celestial realm. In this world, he indeed had no place to go and did not know where to go for the time being. "Thank you, Grandpa." Lin Tiandao expressed his thanks. In fact, with his current age, his seniority was far higher than this old man. However, he naturally could not treat this old man as a junior because it was obviously inappropriate. "Let's go, Brother Lin. I'll show you around," Little Stone said. Lin Tian and Little Shirtu went out and walked in the village. The air was very fresh. As far as the eye could see, the village was very big. There were probably more than 1,000 families. There were also many people walking back and forth in the village. There were some mountains around the village. Lin Tian and Little Rock walked within the village. They knew that this place was not the celestial realm, but rather a desolate world. However, at this time, it was difficult for them to pay attention to it. Even though they were walking within the village, they were thinking about other things. They were thinking about the 180,000 creatures that he had accidentally killed, and about the fact that he had completely lost his cultivation. "Big Brother Lin, you seem very sad. Did something happen?" Little Shirdu looked at him and said, "Nothing." Lin Tian shook his head and forced a smile. Little Shirtu was a little suspicious, but he didn't ask further. Lin Tian continued to walk in the village with Little Shirtu. Then night slowly fell, and time flew by. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. During these 3 days, Lin Tianyi stayed in the village. He tried to think of a way to recover his cultivation. However, there was no way at all. His life force had been exhausted. Not to mention recovering his previous cultivation, it was already impossible for him to even start cultivating again. During these 3 days, he was often in a daze. He thought about his cultivation, about his family and old friends. Without his cultivation, he couldn't leave this world, and he couldn't see his family and friends again. However, he was still thinking about the 180,000 creatures that he had accidentally killed. During these days, whenever he closed his eyes, his mind would be filled with the terrified expressions of those people before they died. This made it difficult for him to fall asleep. Even if he fell asleep, he would have nightmares. In his dreams, the 180,000 creatures that had died turned into malicious spirits and came to take his life. "I'm sorry, I really didn't do it on purpose." During these 3 days, he often said this to himself. His eyes were often filled with confusion. On this day, 3 days later, he walked out of the village alone. He dug a hole in a barren mountain outside the village and erected a tombstone. However, there were no words on the tombstone. He didn't know the names of the 180,000 creatures that he had accidentally killed, so he could only erect nameless tombstones with his bare hands. Time passed day by day. He often walked out of the village and did this in the mountains. At night, he would think about the past, about his family and old friends in the 10 Directions Heaven domain. On this day, when he was about to go to the mountains to erect tombstones for the 180,000 creatures, a panic scream came from outside the village. Ferocious beasts covered with black fur appeared outside the village. There was more than one of them, and there were more than 80 of them. A few young men who happened to walk out of the village were directly attacked. In the blink of an eye, one of them died tragically, and his body was torn apart. Why did so many ferocious beasts suddenly appear? In the village, the expressions of all the villagers changed drastically. In this world, there were all kinds of ferocious beasts. Ferocious beasts often appeared outside the village. However, there were usually only 2 or 3 of them. There had never been so many ferocious beasts appearing at once. The villagers were all shocked. It was not until a few breaths later that someone came to his senses and shouted, "Quick, help!" Immediately, the other young men in the village hurried back to their houses to get hunting knives and hunting spears. Because there were many ferocious beasts in this world, the villagers naturally prepared some sharp weapons that could hurt the beasts. At this time, Lin Tian naturally saw this scene. When he saw the young men fleeing in fear in the face of dozens of ferocious beasts, he thought of the 180,000 creatures' terrified expressions before they died. Without thinking, he rushed out and ran toward the dozens of ferocious beasts. "Brother Lin, it's dangerous. You don't have a weapon." Little Shirtu couldn't help but shout when he saw this scene. When the other villagers saw Lin Tian rushing out of the village with his bare hands and running toward the dozens of ferocious beasts, they obviously knew that Lin Tian was going to save people. They were all shocked because Lin Tian was rushing out with his bare hands. Lin Tian didn't respond to these people for the time being. Soon, he rushed to the dozens of ferocious beasts outside the village. When they saw a human rushing over, among the dozens of ferocious beasts, a ferocious beast that was about 1 zhang tall immediately roared and pounced toward Lin Tian fiercely. It stuck its head out and bit at Lin Tian. A fishy smell came out from its mouth. Lin Tian's face was expressionless. He dodged, and at the same time, he waved his right hand and punched the neck of the ferocious beast. Roar! The ferocious beast let out a shrill cry. Blood flowed out of its mouth, and it fell straight down. It didn't get up again. This scene immediately caused all the villagers in the village to turn pale. He's barehanded. With just one punch, many people were stunned. So powerful. Little Shirtu and Elder Lucinda were also shocked. At the same time, the young men who were surrounded and dodging the attacks of the ferocious beasts also changed their expressions. They often trained themselves on a daily basis, so their bodies were very strong and their strength wasn't weak. However, they were far from being able to kill a ferocious beast with one punch. However, Lin Tian, who was much thinner than them, did it so easily. "You guys go first," Lin Tian said to them. At the same time, he punched another ferocious beast. With a miserable cry, the ferocious beast fell to the ground and didn't get up again. Chapter 1799. More than 80 savage beasts roared, each of them looking ferocious. Lin Tian ordered the other young men who were besieged by the savage beasts to retreat first, while he attracted the attention of all the savage beasts. He punched from time to time, and every time he punched, a savage beast would fall to the ground and never get up again. Then, in just 30 breaths of time, all the savage beasts were knocked down, and none of them could stand up again. The young men who were besieged by the savage beasts were stunned. At the same time, in the village, the group of young men who had just gotten their weapons and rushed to the entrance of the village were also stunned. This. Everyone was shocked. A single person knocked down more than 80 savage beasts with his bare hands in just a few breaths of time. This was something that they didn't even dare to imagine. But now, this scene appeared before their eyes. Old Lu, what kind of person did you save? Someone muttered to old Lu Xingde. Old Lu was also completely stunned. At this time, a thought appeared in his mind. What kind of person did I save? Outside the village, Lin Tian looked at the dozens of savage beasts on the ground. His gaze fell to the other side, where there was a corpse of a young man. It was torn into pieces by the savage beasts, and there was still a terrified expression on his blood-stained face. For a moment, the terrified expressions of hundreds of thousands of creatures when they died replayed in his mind, and he couldn't help but tremble. Cough! He coughed, and blood flowed out from his mouth. Seeing him coughing up blood, the young men behind him who were besieged at the beginning immediately changed their expressions, and they quickly surrounded him. Brother, are you hurt? Are you okay? One of them asked. They were very grateful to Lin Tian for saving them, and at the same time, Lin Tian's strength made them respect him even more. At this time, seeing Lin Tian coughing up blood, they were all worried. Lin Tian shook his head, indicating that he was fine. He stared blankly at the corpse of the young man who had a terrified expression on his face, and his limbs trembled slightly. Every year, many people in the village die in the mouths of the savage beasts. Damn it. A young man named Erju clenched his fists and said. Soon, many people came out of the village and surrounded Lin Tian. They were amazed by Lin Tian's strength, and they couldn't help but praise him. Brother Lin, you're so strong. You're like a god. Little Shirtu had a look of worship. Lin Tian looked at little Shirtu and forced a smile. At this time, the parents who were torn to pieces by the savage beasts knelt in front of the young man's corpse, and they were in so much pain that they wanted it to die. Upon seeing this sight, an elder couldn't help but sigh. There are savage beasts everywhere. Our living space is getting smaller and smaller. Although these savage beasts are ferocious, they are not the most frightening. It is said that in some mountains, some savage beasts can even transform into humans. They can crush mountains and fill rivers. If such monsters were to appear, we would not be able to survive. We would not be able to resist at all. Another old man said. The parents of the dead young man were in pain, and the villagers helped to bury the young man's corpse. After that, many people went to Lu Xingde's place. Of course, they were not there to see Lu Xingde and little Shirtu. They were there for Lin Tian, and they were all shocked by Lin Tian's strength. Lin Tianji smiled modestly, but it was a forced smile. He had lost all his cultivation, and he was responsible for the lives of 18 innocent people. How could he smile? Gradually, the crowd dispersed. Night came, and the stars filled the sky. Soon, the night disappeared, and the morning sun appeared in the sky. A new day had arrived. Lin Tianyi walked out of the village as usual. He entered the mountain near the village and set up a nameless monument. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. In the past few days, after the previous group of savage beasts, groups of savage beasts began to appear outside the village. More and more savage beasts appeared, and the villagers were constantly suffering. Every time he saw a villager die tragically, Lin Tian would feel waves of unbearable pain. I can't let another person die. His mind replayed the horrified expressions of the 180,000 living beings before they died. Seeing the villagers dying one after another, he felt even more unbearable. He wanted to protect them. He didn't want these ordinary people to die one by one in the mouth of the savage beasts, just like the 180,000 innocent living beings he had killed. He began to lead the other young men in the village to build a strong wall outside the village. He took up swords and spears to attack the savage beasts outside the village. In the process of attacking these savage beasts, he would occasionally use his body to block the fatal attacks of the other young men, and blood was stained outside the village. Brother Tion, in the future, don't block the attacks of those savage beasts for us. Oui. It had been a year since Lin Tion first led them to defend against the savage beasts. In this year, Lin Tianyi used his body to block the fatal attacks of the savage beasts, and Lin Tian was injured time and time again in exchange for their safety. The young men in the village gradually felt very uncomfortable. It's okay. Lin Tian shook his head. It had been a year since he came to this village. In this year, he truly got to know this world. It was really a savage world. The number of humans was far less than the number of savage beasts, and the living conditions were extremely harsh. In this year, more and more savage beasts appeared in his field of vision outside the village. Savage beasts comparable to divine vein realm cultivators appeared from time to time, and occasionally, there would even be a savage beast comparable to Sea of Consciousness realm. Without his cultivation, even if his body was far stronger than ordinary people and he had ample combat experience, it was still very difficult for him to deal with them. In this year, he tried his best to protect the villagers, and he didn't want to see a single person die. Subconsciously, he thought that he was atoning for his sins. Even if he died, he couldn't let these ordinary people die, like the 180,000 innocent people who died in his hands. But, a group of young men surrounded Lin Tian, and their expressions were unsightly. It's okay. Lin Tian shook his head. Another savage beast's attack was blocked. Lin Tian dragged his tired body into the mountains outside the village and continued to dig and build the nameless monument. In this year, more than 10,000 nameless tombs had been erected in the mountains. Naturally, the villagers also knew what he was doing. Although some people didn't understand what he was doing and why he was erecting these nameless tombs, they still wanted to help. However, they were all rejected by Lin Tian. Brother Lin said that it was his sin, and he wanted to do it himself. Little Shirtu said to those who wanted to help but were rejected. He was also very puzzled. Brother Lin is such a good person. How can he be guilty? Brother Tian is a good person. The other young men in the village said with incomparable firmness. In this year, Lin Tian led them to resist the savage beasts again and again. No one in the village died in the mouths of the savage beasts. Lin Tian even used his own body to block fatal injuries for them time and time again. He had already won their incomparable respect. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, another month passed. During this time, savage beasts appeared several times outside the village. There were many of them, and they were very fierce. However, in the end, they were all defeated by Lin Tian and some of the young men in the village. Still, no one in the village died in the mouth of the savage beasts. On this day, Lin Tian woke up and thought of many things. Then he couldn't help but tremble slightly. His face became a little pale, and he looked a little flustered. Master, Mistress, Xiaoxi Xiaoyu Bai Qiu, Shui Sushu Yi, Little Ziyur, White Pig, Ling Yun, Little Taichu, Yang Qi, Stupid Crocodile, Stupid Tiger, and who else? His voice was trembling. Chapter 1800. For more than a year, he had led a group of youths in the village to block the attacks of the savage beasts again and again to protect the villagers. Today, he suddenly realized that he had forgotten some people. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't remember them. This made him a little anxious. One by one, he repeated the names of the people he still remembered in his mind. He remembered the faces of those people, but he couldn't remember any other familiar faces. It was as if the only relatives and friends he knew were these people. However, in reality, he knew very well that he didn't only remember these family and friends. There were others that he couldn't remember. Is it related to the failure of the tribulation? He muttered to himself, feeling incomparably depressed. He originally thought that after the tribulation, only his cultivation base would dissipate and his origin source would wither. However, he didn't expect that his memories would also dissipate with the passage of time. This made him feel incomparably uncomfortable. Would he gradually forget everyone? Thinking of this, he felt afraid. He took out a hunting knife and carved names one by one on the wall. Li Changfeng, Qing Xian, Lin Shi, Jiu Sushu by Chiu, Shui Yui, Violet Fairy, Yin Yer by Ziki, Lil Taichu, Ling Yun, Stupid Tiger, and Stupid Crocodile. After more than a year, he suddenly only remembered these people. He looked at these names for an hour before he walked out of the room and headed towards a large mountain outside the village. Savage beasts didn't appear outside the village every day. Most of the time, it was very peaceful. During these peaceful times, he built nameless tombstones in the mountain outside the village. He had forgotten some people and couldn't remember them. However, he still remembered that he had killed 180,000 innocent people. Time flew by and dusk passed. He returned to the village and rested after dinner. He looked at the names on the wall and repeated them one by one. He still remembered them all. The next day, he woke up and looked at the names on the wall again. He still remembered them. He felt slightly relieved and walked out of the village to continue building nameless tombstones in the mountain. Just like that, half a month passed in the blink of an eye. Half a month later, he woke up and looked at the names on the wall as usual. He repeated them one by one. At the end, his eyes became blank and his body trembled. Stupid Tiger? Stupid Crocodile? He muttered these two names, but he couldn't remember anything about them. He couldn't even remember what they looked like. He racked his brains to recall, but even after more than 2 hours, he still couldn't recall anything. Stupid Tiger, Stupid Crocodile, he muttered these words, feeling incomparably uncomfortable. Brother Lin, a savage beast has appeared. A shout came from outside the door. It sounded very anxious. It was little Shida's voice. Lin Tian took one last look at the names on the wall before he walked out of the house. He led the young men in the village to fend off the sudden attack of the savage beasts. This time, the group of savage beasts was even more ferocious than before. Lin Tian led the young men in the village and spent a total of 6 hours to force the savage beasts to retreat. Then he returned to the house with a body full of wounds. He looked at the names on the wall again. When he saw the last two names, Stupid Tiger and Stupid Crocodile, he still couldn't remember anything. This made him drown in sadness and sadness. His memories were constantly being lost. He kept forgetting his family and friends. His two cute sisters, his gentle and virtuous lovers, his friends and comrades who fought side by side, his master and mistress who he respected as his parents, and the quiet and peaceful Wu Yi. Would he gradually forget each and every one of them in the near future? Thinking about this, he felt fear and couldn't stop trembling. Then, after an unknown amount of time, he fell asleep in a panic. Night quickly fell and then dispersed. A new day had arrived. Time passed, day after day. Every day, he would look at the names on the wall. Then, after a period of time, he would forget 1 or 2 people and couldn't remember anything about them. After another year, he only remembered 2 of the names on the wall, Li Changfeng and Wu Yi. Then another half a year passed. Of the names on the wall, only Wu Yi still remembered. He had forgotten all the others and couldn't remember them no matter how hard he tried. Then, after another 2 years, he still remembered Wu Yi and didn't continue to forget. Wu Yi. Looking at these 2 words, he muttered to himself. His nose couldn't help but ache, and he had a feeling that he wanted to cry. He clearly felt that the other names on the wall were very important to him, but he couldn't remember them no matter how hard he tried. He couldn't even remember their faces. Only Wu he didn't forget, and he still remembered them very clearly. He even gradually forgot the names of the villagers in the village he lived in and the group of young adults who fought against the savage beasts with him. He couldn't remember them at all. Only when those people called out to each other did he know who they were. In these 2 years, Wu Yi, these 2 words had become his motivation and courage to live on. After forgetting all the important people, only one person remained. To him, this was like a ball of fire in the cold winter that could make him feel warm. The sky was filled with stars. He looked at the 2 words Wu Yi on the wall and slowly fell asleep. Even when he fell asleep, his body would still tremble from time to time. The cold wind blew outside the house, and the sky was incomparably deep. On the peak of a mountain outside the village, a woman stood there. She was countless times more beautiful than the starry sky. Her white silk dress swayed gently in the wind. It was unknown when she appeared here, and it was unknown how long she had been standing there. All she did was quietly look at Lin Tian's house. The curtain of night quickly dispersed, and the morning sun appeared in the sky, scattering bits of light onto the earth. A new day had arrived. As usual, Lin Tian entered the mountain to build the nameless tomb. When the savage beasts appeared and attacked the village, he and the young adults in the village resisted the attacks of the savage beasts time and time again. He had forgotten all the important people, but the fact that 180,000 people had died in his hands was something he always remembered. It was like a curse that was forever branded on his body. As a result, he also remembered that he had to protect the people in the village. Even if he had already forgotten who they were, he had to protect these ordinary people like those 18 creatures. He couldn't let them die at the hands of the savage beasts. He wanted to atone for his sins. Chapter 1801. Seeing that Lin Tian was covered in blood and his face was extremely pale, the group of young and strong men who were defending against the savage beasts all surrounded him. "Brother Tian, don't block those beast attacks for us. Really don't." Someone spoke. He was a tall and sturdy man, but he couldn't help but cry. "Brother Tian, what happened to you? You should tell us. All these years, you've never been happy. Even when you smiled, it was very forced. We feel terrible." Lin Tian had been in the village for 4 years. In these 4 years, Lin Tian led them to defend the village from the savage beasts. He blocked the savage beasts' fatal attacks for them time and time again. He protected them with his own life time and time again, and he was seriously injured. This made them respect Lin Tian very much. Then, as Lin Tian blocked more and more fatal attacks for them, they gradually felt very uncomfortable. Many of their lives were exchanged for by Lin Tian's sacrifice. In these 4 years, everyone in the village saw clearly what Lin Tian had done for the village. If it wasn't for Lin Tian, the village would have been destroyed by the savage beasts that were becoming more and more wanton. The villagers would have a hard time surviving. Everyone in the village called Lin Tian a hero. However, in these 4 years, they had never seen Lin Tian happy. It was as if he was shouldering something. Even if they were burly and didn't think carefully, they could still feel that Lin Tian was sad. He was always surrounded by sadness and pain. This made them feel terrible. They felt terrible for Lin Tian. If Lin Tian could be happy, they would be willing to die. "Brother Tian, tell us." Among the group of strong men, many of them had tears in their eyes. Lin Tian could feel their concern for him, but he didn't say anything to them. 180,000 innocent lives had died in his hands. That was his sin. He had forgotten all the important people. That was a pain that only he could understand. No one else could help him. "I'm fine." Blood flowed out of his mouth. His voice was weak. He supported his body and stood up. Because he was seriously injured and lost a lot of blood, he felt dizzy as soon as he stood up. He staggered and fell to the ground. The surrounding group of young men saw this and quickly went to help him up. At this moment, a woman appeared in front of Lin Tian silently. She was wearing a white dress. Lin Tian's body just happened to lean on the woman's body. His blood stained the woman's white dress red. The expressions of the youths who were preparing to support Lin Tian changed. Firstly, it was because this woman's appearance was too strange, appearing here out of thin air. Secondly, this woman was too beautiful, beautiful to the point of suffocating, making the heavens and earth dim in comparison. Who are you?" The group of people reacted and shouted. However, they didn't do anything else. After all, they saw that the woman was very weak. They didn't think that she could threaten Lin Tian in front of them. Moreover, they didn't feel that the woman had any evil intentions. The woman was very quiet, like the surface of a calm spring. She let Lin Tian lean on her body and let the blood stain her white dress. She didn't seem to see or respond to the people around her. After 3 breaths, she opened her mouth and said to Lin Tiandao, who was leaning on her chest, "Why do you have to make things difficult for yourself?" Her voice was very soft and gentle. It was as pleasant as the sound of a zither. Lin Tian's consciousness was already very weak, and he was about to faint. However, when he heard this extremely familiar voice, he couldn't help but tremble. His eyelids twitched for a long time before he opened them again. He felt himself leaning on a soft body. After struggling for a while, he stood up again. In his blurred vision, he saw a beautiful and familiar face. Immediately, he couldn't help but tremble. He opened his mouth, and after a few breaths, he said in a trembling voice, "Wu-Yi." It had been 4 years. He had forgotten the important people one by one. Only the person in front of him still remembered. She was the one who gave him the courage and motivation to live. Now that he saw her, he was a little emotional, but he also felt even more uncomfortable. Family, friends, old friends. These years, you forgot one after another. You even forgot the most important teacher, but you never forgot me. Although it might have something to do with the life source that belongs to you in my body. But, Wu-Yi was very beautiful. Her voice was still as soft as before. It was the first time she said so many words. She said, "I'm still very happy." For years ago, when little Taichu and the others returned to the 10-direction sky domain, she naturally knew some things. Everyone was looking for Lin Tian, but no one could find him. Even Yin Yer, who was good at divination, couldn't find him. In the end, only she could feel Lin Tian's weak aura. Only she could find Lin Tian. She had already found this place 4 years ago. When she came to this world and found Lin Tian, she wanted to appear in front of Lin Tian. However, she found that Lin Tian had lost all his cultivation and his life source. She saw Lin Tian in pain and sadness. She saw Lin Tian digging uninhabited tombs in another mountain outside the village. She saw Lin Tian leading the young men in the village to fend off the savage beasts. She could imagine that Lin Tian wanted to atone for his crime. He wanted to atone for the 180,000 people he had killed by mistake. Therefore, she didn't show up. She stayed on another mountain outside the village. She watched Lin Tian every day. She watched Lin Tian block the fatal attacks of savage beasts for the young men in the village. She watched him dig and build nameless tombs. She watched him forget the important people one by one. In the end, he only remembered her. She quietly felt Lin Tian's pain and sadness. In the blink of an eye, for years had passed. Until this day, when Lin Tian's injuries were so severe that he was about to lose his life, she stopped watching him. Lin Tian was covered in blood. He looked at Wu-Yi. When he saw Wu-Yi appear here, he was about to faint. However, at this time, he gradually regained his consciousness. The dizziness in his head was gone. "You know?" His voice trembled slightly. In the past 4 years, he had forgotten many people. Did Wu-Yi know about this? Wu-Yi didn't say anything. She just nodded slightly. She watched Lin Tian on the mountain outside the village for 4 years. She knew everything that happened in the past 4 years. "Let's go back to the village," she said to Lin Tiandao. After saying that, she stepped forward and helped Lin Tian into the village. Lin Tian didn't refuse. He followed her into the village. The young men around them were stunned. "You know him?" The group of young men looked at each other. After a while, they came to their senses and followed Lin Tiandao. Lin Tian returned to the village with Wu-Yi's help. The villagers immediately surrounded them. They looked at Lin Tian anxiously. At the same time, they were also shocked by Wu-Yi, who was supporting Lin Tian. Wu-Yi was too beautiful. As ordinary people, they could feel a sense of holiness. Even if her clothes were stained with blood, she still exuded a sense of holiness. However, the villagers' gazes fell on Lin Tian. Compared to Wu-Yi's beauty, they were more concerned about Lin Tian's injuries. An old man in the village who knew some basic medical skills brought some herbs and was anxious to stop Lin Tian's bleeding and bandage his wounds. "No need," Wu-Yi said softly. She helped Lin Tian into the house where Lin Tian lived and closed the door. She helped Lin Tian to sit on the bed. A gentle divine light gushed out and surrounded Lin Tian. In the blink of an eye, Lin Tian's injuries were healed. The blood on Lin Tian's body and hers was also wiped away by her divine power. She looked at Lin Tian and didn't say anything for a while. Chapter 1802. In these 4 years, Lin Tian had mostly forgotten about the fact that he had completely lost his cultivation. Now that he saw Wu Yi treating his injuries and saw the divine power again after 4 years, he remembered it again. When he said these words, he more or less felt a little uncomfortable. "It's good that you're alive," Wu Yi said. Lin Tian forced a bitter smile. "Are you comforting me?" "It's the truth," Wu Yi said. The house was very small, and the only person he still remembered was in front of him. Lin Tian's mood improved a little, but it was only a little. The two of them stayed in the house. Wu Yi still didn't talk much, and Lin Tian was still the one talking most of the time. Very soon, 2 hours passed. After 2 hours, Lin Tian and Wu Yi walked out. He knew that everyone in the village was still worried about him, so he had to reassure them. "He's fine now?" "That's great." Seeing Lin Tian walk out, all the villagers were relieved. After that, all the villagers were stunned and revealed strange expressions. Firstly, Lin Tian was clearly so heavily injured earlier, yet he had completely recovered in a short period of 2 hours. Wasn't this speed a bit too fast? It was fast to the point they found it difficult to comprehend. At the same time, Lin Tian and Wu Yi's clothes were stained with a lot of blood. But now, their clothes didn't change, but there wasn't a single drop of blood on them. Lin Tian could feel the doubts and astonishment of the villagers, but he didn't explain anything. Some things were better left unexplained. Wu Yi knew that Lin Tian wanted to quell the savage beast disaster in this world, and he knew that he wanted the villagers to have a stable life, so he didn't mention leaving to Lin Tian and stayed in the village. The villagers could see that Wu Yi and Lin Tian were related, so they worked together and built a new house in the village in just one day. Because the place where Lin Tian lived before was too small, it was too crowded for the two of them. Time passed day by day. When there were no savage beasts attacking outside the village, Lin Tian would go to the mountains outside the village to build nameless tombs, as usual. The only difference was that he used to be alone, but now he had Wu Yi with him. However, Wu Yi just watched quietly from the side and never said anything about helping. She only waited until Lin Tian wanted to go back. Then they would go back to the village together. In the blink of an eye, another year passed. In this 1 year, the savage beasts in this world became even more reckless. More and more savage beasts appeared outside the village. Moreover, among them, there were savage beasts with extremely high intelligence. There were even some savage beasts that could speak human language. The monster. Legend has it that there are some savage beasts in the ominous mountains that can transform into human form and speak human language. So it's true. The villagers were naturally very surprised by this. After that, as such situations became more frequent and more savage beasts that could speak human language appeared, the villagers gradually stopped being shocked because they had seen too many of them and got used to it. Lin Tian was naturally not surprised by this. Under normal circumstances, demonic beasts could transform into human form after reaching the flight realm. It was normal for some special demonic beasts to be able to speak human language when they reached the peak of the divine range realm. Time and time again, Lin Tian led the young men in the village to defend against the savage beasts. Wu Yi did not help. She only stood on the sturdy wall that Lin Tian led the villagers to build and quietly watched Lin Tian fight. When Lin Tian was seriously injured, she would go outside the village to help him back to the village and use her divine power to heal him. Because Lin Tian was the most seriously injured, Lin Tian would always block fatal attacks for the young men who followed him. Most of the time, ordinary herbs could not heal Lin Tian's injuries. She could only use her divine power to help. She only helped Lin Tian treat his injuries. She never fought because she knew that there were some things that Lin Tian wanted to do by himself. Time flew. In the blink of an eye, another 2 years had passed. Sister-in-law. Not good. Brother Tian has been captured by a monster in the ominous mountains. Ask you to go to the Luo 2 wasteland. On this day, a group of young men who often fought against savage beasts with Lin Tian knocked on Wu Yi's door with anxious expressions. Not long after Wu Yi appeared, they called Wu Yi sister-in-law. They all felt that although Lin Tian and Wu Yi were not married and did not live in the same room, They definitely had that kind of relationship. Wu Yi nodded without any change in her expression. She just nodded slightly, closed the door, and walked out of the village. She knew where the Luo 2 wasteland that the group of young men were talking about was. It was about 10 miles away from the village. The young men in the village all carried weapons and followed her. Even some of the middle-aged and elderly people in the village were anxious when they heard that Lin Tian had been captured by a monster. They carried their hoes and wanted to help as well. To them, Lin Tian was not only a hero who helped them fight against savage beasts time and time again, but also a relative of everyone in the village. "I'll go alone." Wu Yi's voice was very soft. She did not turn around. However, in the next moment, the villagers were stunned. Wu Yi's figure disappeared from their sight. White clouds floated in the sky. 10 miles away from the village, there was a towering mountain. It was surrounded by wisps of black fog. Outside the mountain, there was a large wasteland. The exact size of the wasteland was unknown. In the wasteland, there was a dense demonic fog lingering in the air. About 10,000 savage beasts gathered together, forming a black mass. It was very frightening. The leader was a very scantily clad, charming woman. "This king wants to see how beautiful that human you speak of is. Someone actually dares to say that this king is not comparable to her." The woman sneered. She was a snake demon whose cultivation had reached the Void Realm level 5. She was the king of the vicious mountain behind her, the king of all the savage beasts here. No such thing. You are the absolute queen of the world. You are the most beautiful and noble. How can a mere human be compared to you? There is something wrong with the eyes of those little demons." Beside her, a monkey demon hurriedly said, "In these years, many savage beasts in the mountain who had gained intelligence and could speak human language attacked the village 10 miles away. When they saw Wu Yi, they were extremely stunned. They often talked about her, saying that she was more beautiful than their queen. 3 days ago, the charming woman who had just come out of seclusion heard this and directly killed a group of demonic beasts who were talking about her. Then, she ordered that the humans mentioned by the group of demonic beasts be brought to her. This human male and that human female seem to be husband and wife. This person is in our hands. That woman will be here soon." The monkey demon had the cultivation of the Sea of Consciousness level 9. He respectfully and carefully said to the charming woman, "We have deliberately released a group of humans to inform that woman. Girl, please wait for a moment." The charming woman snorted coldly. She looked at the 2 demonic bears who were holding Lin Tian, who were at the Sea of Consciousness level 7. She said, "Humans are all greedy for life and afraid of death. Will that woman really come? Why don't you just catch her directly?" "This?" The monkey demon paused and said, "To be honest, there is a village there. Outside the village, there is a very strong defensive wall. It is very difficult for us to rush in and catch her." As he spoke, he looked at Lin Tian and said, "It seems to be this human who led the other humans in the village to build the wall. Moreover, this human is not simple. Some of our brothers who are at the peak of the divine range level are not his match." As he spoke, the monkey demon looked at Lin Tian. His eyes were very gloomy. These years, Lin Tian had led the people in the village to block the attacks of the savage beasts. They had not tasted human blood and flesh for many years. Moreover, they had lost many of their kind. If it was not for the fact that he wanted to use Lin Tian to lure that woman out of the village, he would have killed Lin Tian long ago. "Oh? A mere human can block the attacks of our kind, who are at the Sea of Consciousness level 9 divine range." The charming woman was a little surprised. She narrowed her eyes and looked at Lin Tian. "It is true. I don't dare to lie to the queen. This human is very strong," the monkey demon said. The charming woman snorted coldly. "He was strong, but he was just a barbarian." Lin Tian was being held by the 2 demonic bears. When he heard the monkey demon and the charming woman's words, he did not care. He just felt a little bitter that he would be suppressed by several savage beasts at the Sea of Consciousness level 1 day. "She is here. The queen is here." Chapter 1803. Walking out of the village, Wu Yi arrived at the outskirts of the fallen earth wasteland. Her steps were very gentle, and the expression on her face was as calm as ever. Wu Yi. Lin Tian was being held down by two bear demons. Her body was stained with a lot of blood, and her spirit was very weak. Even her vision was very blurry at this time, and she couldn't see many things clearly. However, she could still recognize Wu Yi. Many savage beasts gathered in the surroundings. When they saw Wu Yi walking over, many of the demonic beasts with intelligence couldn't help but be stunned. They stared at Wu Yi without blinking. They were all stunned by his peerless appearance. The charming woman couldn't help but be stunned. Before reaching the airborne realm, she had seen many human women who transformed into human form with their demon bodies. Naturally, her beauty was not bad, and she was very confident. However, now, seeing Wu Yi coming and looking at her beauty, she was almost petrified for a moment. She couldn't believe that there was someone in this world with such a beautiful face. She tried to find some flaws, but it was completely futile. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't find a single flaw. For the first time, she understood the meaning of the word perfect. Let go. Wu Yi stopped 10 meters away from the group of beasts. Seeing Lin Tian being held by two bear demons, her eyes fell on the charming woman. With her intelligence, she could naturally see that the charming woman was the leader of the group of beasts. The charming woman came back to her senses, and her face became a little ugly. Her subordinates were talking about Wu Yi being more beautiful than her, so she directly took action and killed those subordinates. Then, she ordered the other subordinates to capture Wu Yi and see if Wu Yi was really more beautiful than her. She didn't believe that there was anyone in this world who was more beautiful than her. Even if there was, it was definitely only a little bit more beautiful than her. However, now that she saw Wu Yi, she found that her appearance was not comparable to Wu Yi's at all. It was like the difference between heaven and earth. This feeling made her feel very uncomfortable. Very beautiful indeed. Very beautiful indeed. She sneered, and the aura around her body turned cold. Facing this kind of aura, the Sea of Consciousness realm monkey demon at the side immediately trembled, fearing that the charming woman would implicate them due to her anger. He hurriedly flattered loudly, "Not as beautiful as your majesty." "Yes, she's not as beautiful as her majesty. The queen is the most beautiful." "Yes, the queen is the most beautiful." The other intelligent demonic beasts also followed suit. Their thoughts were the same as the monkey demons. Naturally, they wouldn't speak the truth and say that Wu Yi was beautiful. Going against their king was simply courting death. The queen is the most beautiful. The group of monsters roared. Although the charming woman knew that the demons were speaking against their will because they were afraid of her, it still made her feel a little better. "Let go." Wu Yi's voice sounded again. He looked at the charming woman and said. His expression did not change at all. He was still very calm. It was very easy for her to save Lin Tian from this group of demonic beasts. She could do it with just a glance, but she didn't do it. This situation was different from the few times when she helped Lin Tian. There were a few times when Lin Tian's cultivation was still there, and he encountered a few difficulties with enemies whose cultivation was stronger than his. But now, Lin Tian's cultivation was gone, and he was suppressed by several Sea of Consciousness realm demonic beasts. If she took action at this time and saved Lin Tian from the Sea of Consciousness realm demonic beasts who captured and suppressed Lin Tian, it would more or less stimulate Lin Tian, and it might make Lin Tian feel more sad. She didn't want that. In these few years, Lin Tian had accumulated enough sadness and pain. The charming woman's face darkened. Wu Yi's beauty made her uncomfortable. She dared to be more beautiful than her. Wu Yi's calmness also made her uncomfortable. She was just a human woman, but facing her, a flying demonic beast who could transform into human form, she didn't panic at all. She was very uncomfortable. A mere human dares to speak to this king so calmly. She looked at Wu Yi, then sneered at Lin Tian. She took out a dagger and threw it at Wu Yi's feet, saying, "I can see that he is very important to you. If you want this king to let him go, sure. Kneel down and beg this king. Then cut your own face a few times, and this king will let him go." Wu Yi's beauty made her very uncomfortable. However, she wouldn't kill immediately. She wanted to play with Wu Yi for a while. First, she would destroy Wu Yi's face, then kill her. She felt that it was very interesting to let Wu Yi destroy her own face. It was more interesting than doing it herself. Let go. Wu Yi's expression didn't change. She still said the same two words. She didn't even look at the dagger at her feet. This kind of calmness made the charming woman even more unhappy. She narrowed her eyes and looked at Wu Yi. She still didn't kill her. She wanted to play with and torture Wu Yi for a while before making a move. Only then would she be able to vent her anger. She looked at Wu Yi and smiled charmingly. She walked in front of Lin Tian and said to Wu Yi, "This is your man, right? I wonder how you will react if this king absorbs all of his yang energy in front of your eyes." Her charming smile became somewhat obscene through intercourse. As she said this, she stuck out her tongue and looked at Wu Yi in a lascivious manner. Then, she slowly licked Lin Tian's face, leaving a few drops of saliva on Lin Tian's face. Lin Tian's body immediately trembled. He couldn't help but clench his fists. His fingernails dug deep into the flesh of his palms. When had he ever suffered such humiliation? Wu Yi's calmness gradually dissipated. Wisps of wind appeared around her body, causing her skirt to gently sway. In the blink of an eye, the white clouds in the sky became as black as ink. Bolts of lightning exploded in the sky, and the entire savage world trembled as if it was going to collapse in the next moment. An aura that caused the heavens and earth to tremble spread out from her body, and countless creatures were terrified. In an instant, all the worlds in the universe were shaken. Ancient living fossils that had been sleeping for countless years woke up. They were all shocked. At the same time, in a boundlessly vast and unknown world, celestial mountains and divine mountains towered into the sky, while divine rivers flowed smoothly. A gentle breeze was produced, causing the branches and leaves of the ancient trees that reached the heavens to sway and the clouds to flow faster. Then, pairs of extremely deep eyes opened. It was as if they had seen all the reincarnations of the universe. Their eyes were intertwined with indescribable shock. This aura, half-step divine emperor? A mere half-step divine emperor's aura can penetrate into the heavenly world of nothingness. How is this possible? Even a peak divine emperor can't do this. Pairs of deep eyes couldn't help but violently tremble. Boom! In the wild world, the wind and clouds suddenly changed. The entire world trembled. Endless darkness covered the entire world. In the sky, rolling thunder surged. It was as if an apocalyptic heavenly tribulation had appeared. Chapter 1804. The barren world was pitch black, and the wind was howling. The entire world was shaking, as if the end of the world had come. This was the first time Lin Tian had seen Wu Yi so emotional. It was also the first time he had seen Wu Yi exude such a strong aura. Even though he had lost all his cultivation, he could still feel the world trembling, as if it had a consciousness of its own. The charming woman in the airborne realm was completely dumbfounded. The monkey demon and tens of thousands of other monsters next to her were also stunned. After a few breaths, the barren world stopped shaking, and the darkness in the sky gradually dissipated. The charming woman and tens of thousands of other monsters were shattered one by one, dissipating like light. From beginning to end, they didn't even let out a scream. The bear demon holding Lin Tian disappeared. Lin Tian was covered in blood, and his head was dizzy. He couldn't stand still and knelt down. Wu Yi, dressed in white, regained her calmness. She paused on the spot, walked up to Lin Tian, and squatted down. It's no big deal to lose your cultivation. You can remember your lost memories. As long as you wanna, everything can be restored. Her voice was very soft. She wiped the saliva left by the charming woman on Lin Tian's face. Let's get married. Lin Tian Wei trembled. He raised his head with difficulty and looked at Wu Yi in a daze. Why? He moved his lips. There was surprise, sadness, and self-mockery. Why do you say such things? Even when he was still in cultivation, He would occasionally feel inferior when facing Wu Yi. He used to think that no one was worthy of the woman in front of him. When he was still in cultivation, he had such feelings. Now that his cultivation was gone, he was crippled. How could he marry such a perfect woman? She wanted to marry him like this? Don't say such things just to pity me. Don't marry me just because you pity me. That's your life. He clenched his fists. Hearing such words at this time made him feel even more uncomfortable. Wu Yi looked at him calmly. Do you think I would marry someone just because I pity someone? Her voice was still very soft. You asked why, because you have me in your heart, and because I have you in my heart. The holy light origin and the void origin had collided again and again in her body. She should have died long ago, but Lin Tian had disregarded his own life and forcefully given her a large amount of reincarnation origin, allowing the two king body origins in her body to reach a balance, allowing her to avoid death. In the void domain, it was Lin Tian who had accompanied her for 300 years, and it was Lin Tian who had taken care of her for 300 years. 300 years of being alone with each other, 100,000 days and nights of careful care, was enough to imprint Lin Tian's shadow in her heart. Lin Tian trembled again. Because you have me in your heart, and because I have you in my heart, this simple sentence made him feel even worse. What did the current him have to marry this woman? I am not qualified. He clenched his fists even tighter. Wu Yi looked at him quietly, without any change in her expression. The man who once quelled the dark chaos by himself. The man who wiped out a true immortal clan in a fit of anger for his disciple. The man who killed a heavenly god with his immortal king cultivation for his younger sister. Now, you don't even have the courage to marry a woman? She looked at Lin Tian. Lin Tian opened his mouth, but didn't know what to say. Wu Yi looked at him, her expression still calm, and her voice even softer. The only person who can marry me is you. Lin Tian clenched his fists even tighter, and then he gradually relaxed them. The sky returned to its usual appearance. White clouds floated in the blue sky, flowing with the flow of time. A gentle divine power enveloped Lin Tian. Wu Yi pulled Lin Tian's hand, stood up from the ground, and returned to the village side by side. On this day, the village was decorated with lanterns and colored banners. A large red she character was posted outside Lin Tian's house, and it was filled with joy. Everyone in the village witnessed Lin Tian and Wu Yi's wedding ceremony, and their faces were filled with blessings. The sun set, and the sky gradually darkened. Lin Tian and Wu Yi were sent into the house together by the villagers. Because it was an ancient ceremony, the two of them were wearing red wedding clothes. A red veil covered Wu Yi's head, covering her face that could make the world dim. Lin Tian gently lifted it. The wooden table in the house was filled with wine jugs and wine cups. The two of them sat by the bed, and in the blink of an eye, more than an hour passed. The darkness of the night gradually became thicker. Am I not attractive? Wu Yi asked. Lin Tian was moved. He got up and extinguished the oil lamp in the house. In the darkness, the sound of clothes being taken off could be heard, floating in the house. The night was captivating, and the full moon stood in the sky, looking exceptionally beautiful. Time passed little by little. At the top of the sky where the two of them were in, ripples appeared in the air, and a divine diagram gradually condensed and slowly rotated at the top of the sky. After an hour, it gradually dissipated. In the starry sky, stars dotted the sky, and the darkness slowly dissipated with the passage of time. The morning sun appeared in the sky, and a gentle morning light shone on the village, enveloping the entire village. Lin Tian and Wu Yi woke up at the same time. The simple and neat bedsheets were stained with blood, and Lin Tian carefully put them away. Some things were very precious. Wu Yi. He looked at Wu Yi and wanted to say something, but in the next moment his expression changed slightly. He moved his hand, and a faint light appeared in the palm of his hand. He hurriedly used his will, and then found that he could look into his body. His withered life source was glowing again, and his scattered cultivation base was beginning to reappear. Although he didn't immediately reach his former peak state, He was recovering bit by bit. At the same time, he remembered all the important people he had forgotten. He remembered all of them, and the bits and pieces of the past were all in his mind. This surprised and delighted him, and his body couldn't help but tremble. Then, he looked at Wu Yi and vaguely guessed something. Looking at Wu Yi, he asked, "You knew from the beginning that after we slept together, my life source would recover?" He thought of something. Wu Yi had his reincarnation source in her body. When they merged into one, a familiar aura from Wu Yi's body entered his. At that time, he didn't notice it, but now that he thought about it, it was the aura of his reincarnation source. Only the source that belongs to you can light up your source. Wu Yi said softly. Lin Tian heard this, and his heart trembled violently. You married me to let me recover? Wu Yi tilted her head and looked at him. Don't make me angry. Lin Tian understood what she meant. For the first time in so many years, he showed a real smile. I'm sorry. The warm sun shone on the village, and the sun rose even higher. The two of them walked out of the house and walked in the village. Everyone in the village saw the two of them and gave them their blessings. The old, the young, the women, and the children all took the initiative to greet the two of them. Wu Yi was still as quiet as before. When Lin Tian didn't speak, she didn't say anything. Walking in the village, an hour passed in the blink of an eye. This world is full of savage beasts, and it's very dangerous for ordinary people. It's not even suitable for ordinary people to live. I want to make this world really stable before I leave. Chapter 1805. After failing the heavenly tribulation and falling into this world, he wanted to truly protect everyone in the village. Until now, this thought had not changed. Now that his cultivation was gradually recovering, he felt that he should be able to completely restore peace to this world where savage beasts ran rampant, so that the people in the village could be truly safe and would no longer have to worry about the threat of savage beasts. Okay, Wu Yi nodded. The two of them walked in the village, looking very warm. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. During this month, savage beasts still appeared frequently outside the village. Although more than 10,000 savage beasts in the ominous mountain dozens of miles away from the village died under Wu Yi's aura, there were more than one ominous mountain nearby. There were many savage beasts in each ominous mountain. Savage beasts would often jump out of the mountains and appear outside the village, wanting to rush in to hunt for food. During this month, Lin Tian's cultivation recovered from being completely crippled to the divine vein level. While fending off the savage beasts that appeared from time to time, he began to teach some people in the village how to cultivate. He used his restored divine vein level cultivation to guide the villagers' cultivation. When the villagers first came into contact with cultivation, they were shocked and excited. Later on, they respected Lin Tian even more. At the same time, during this month, he would still go to the mountain outside the village to build nameless tombs. Every time he went, Wu Yi would always follow him. She did not help at all, only watching quietly from the side. On this day, once again in the mountain outside the village, Lin Tian built a batch of nameless tombs. When he called Wu Yi back to the village, he vaguely felt that Wu Yi's spirit had weakened a little. What's wrong? Are you not feeling well? He asked Wu Yi. Wu Yi shook her head, paused, and said softly, I'm pregnant. As she said this, her expression was still very calm. Lin Tian could not calm down. When these two words fell into his ears, it was as if a divine bell was ringing. Wu Yi was pregnant. Really? He asked anxiously. Wu Yi nodded. There was a new life in her body, so her aura was affected and weakened a little. After getting a positive answer, Lin Tian became even more excited. He was wild with joy and hugged Wu Yi. Knowing that he had flesh and blood, how could he not be excited? This was even more pleasantly surprised than his life essence being reignited. He was going to be a father. Let's go back to the village, Wu Yi said softly. Regarding the fact that she was pregnant, there was actually a glimmer of light in her eyes. However, compared to Lin Tian's wild joy, it could be said that there were no ripples. All right, let's go back. Lin Tian was very happy and pulled Wu Yi into the village. Time passed bit by bit. Usually, Lin Tian taught the young people in the village how to cultivate. He led the young people to fend off the attacks of the savage beasts and built the nameless tomb in the mountains outside the village. Then, he spent the rest of his time with Wu Yi. In the blink of an eye, more than 8 months had passed. In more than 8 months, his cultivation had recovered to the immortal ascension realm. Under his guidance, many young people in the village had reached the first tier of the divine range realm, and the weakest had reached the 7th tier of the body-tempering realm. Most of the time, only these young people could fend off the savage beasts that appeared. More than 8 months later, on a sunny day, a baby's cry rang out in the village. It was especially crisp. There were no shocking phenomena. After nearly 10 months of pregnancy, everything was very peaceful, just like ordinary people. On this day, Wu Yi gave birth to her and Lin Tian's child. It was a girl. She looked like she was carved from jade and was very cute. "You name her?" Wu Yi said to Lin Tiandao. Lin Tian could not hide his excitement. He nodded with a smile and took the cute baby in swaddling clothes from Wu Yi's hands. This was his and Wu Yi's child, his and Wu Yi's daughter. When she grows up, she will definitely be as beautiful and powerful as you. He looked at his own flesh and blood, then at Wu Yi, and finally at his daughter in swaddling clothes. He smiled and said, Ruoxian Lin." In the swaddling clothes, the newborn child seemed to be able to understand his words. She let out a cry as if she was cheering. Lin Tian smiled even more happily. Then, in the next moment, he could not help but tremble slightly. In the depths of his mind, the figure of a young girl in white suddenly flashed, with a hint of playfulness, and disappeared in a flash. He could not help but be startled. What was that figure just now? What's wrong? Wu Yi asked. Lin Tian came back to his senses. He shook his head and said with a smile, "Nothing." His daughter in swaddling clothes was moving around. His mind was instantly drawn to this child. "What do you think of this name?" He teased his daughter and asked Wu Yi. "Pretty good." Wu Yi nodded. She looked at little Ruoxian in Lin Tian's hands and smiled. Lin Tian Wei was stunned. Then his smile widened. "Congratulations, Brother Tian. Congratulations, sister-in-law. Congratulations, congratulations." Wu Yi gave birth to little Ruoxian on this day. Naturally, everyone in the village knew. Everyone came to congratulate them and sent many gifts. These gifts were very ordinary, but Lin Tian still took them all and thanked the villagers one by one. On a day of great joy, he would not refuse the gifts of others. Time passed unknowingly. In the blink of an eye, another 5 years had passed. 5 years later, little Ruoxian was 5 years old. She could already run wherever she wanted. Occasionally, she would run, and she would fly on her own. Many people in the village were shocked. Lin Tian himself was even more shocked. In these 5 years, he often accompanied little Ruoxian and Wu Yi. He took little Ruoxian to many corners of the world. Occasionally, he would even let little Ruoxian ride him like a horse. He doted on little Ruoxian, but he never taught little Ruoxian cultivation. It could be said that little Ruoxian's cultivation was not even at the first tier of the body refinement realm. However, even so, little Ruoxian was actually able to fly as she ran. She was able to do something that only airborne realm cultivators were able to do. It was difficult for him not to be moved, as it was truly a bit shocking. She was only 5 years old, and she could do this without cultivation. If she embarked on the path of cultivation in the future, how amazing would she be? My guess when I named her back then was not wrong. In the future, she can really be as strong as you. He smiled happily and said to Wu Yi. He had a real understanding of Wu Yi's strength. A few years ago, when that charming woman in the airborne realm humiliated him, Wu Yi's aura was too terrifying. He knew of a group of supreme experts, the King of Chaos, Sakura, the Old Hoodlum, and Ao Jian Tianzuan. He had seen the original body of these existences and experienced their peak aura. However, the peak aura of those people was not as terrifying as that of Wu Yi. At that time, Wu Yi was like the ruler of the world, and thousands of people were terrified. Chapter 1806. Little Ruashian's miraculous abilities surprised Lin Tian. She was too extraordinary. When will I start teaching her cultivation? He asked Wu Yi. 10 years old, Wu Yi said. His expression was very gentle as he watched little Ruashian play with other children of the same age in the village in the distance. Okay, as you wish. Lin Tian nodded. Under normal circumstances, 10 years old was the earliest age for a human to embark on the path of cultivation. Because of this, the body would not be able to bear it. Of course, with his and Wu Yi's abilities, they did not need to care about this at all. They could have helped little Ruashian steadily embark on the path of cultivation at a very early age. However, they did not. Now that Wu Yi said this, he knew very well what Wu Yi was thinking. He just wanted little Ruashian to live a carefree and happy childhood like an ordinary child. This was because, no matter how smooth the path of cultivation was, there would still be some suffering. For example, in the refining body and the divine pulse realm, pure cultivation would bring severe pain to the body. Wu Yi did not want his daughter to suffer that kind of pain so early. Of course, his thoughts were the same as Wu Yi's. Father, ride the horse. Little Ruashian trotted over, grabbed Lin Tian's trousers, and looked up at Lin Tian like a little fairy. Okay. Lin Tian smiled. He squatted down and let little Ruashian sit on his back. He really did look like a horse carrying little Ruashian around the house. It really did not look good. However, he did not care at all. This was his flesh and blood. Even if he died for the little girl, he would not frown. What was the big deal about being a horse? Wu Yi stood quietly at the side, watching the father and daughter play with each other. His expression became even gentler. Time passed day by day. Lin Tian still frequently went to the mountains outside the village to build the nameless tomb. What was different from before was that not only did he have Wu Yi with him, but also little Ruashian. The little fellow and Wu Yi stood aside and looked at the nameless tombs. He asked Wu Yi curiously, Mother, what are these? Wu Yi looked at the nameless tombs that covered the mountains and looked at Lin Tian, who was continuing to build the nameless tombs. She said softly, This is your father's kindness. Lin Tian claimed that it was his fault for mistakenly killing 180,000 people, but she didn't think so. It wasn't Lin Tian's fault. After that, Lin Tian suffered for several years. He built nameless tombs here with his bare hands, erecting tombstones for the nameless victims. She kept watching and saw only kindness and gentleness. Oh. Little Ruashian didn't understand, but she still nodded her little head. The sun set in the west, and dusk soon arrived. Lin Tian carried little Ruashian and let the little fellow sit on his neck. He walked back to the village with Wu Yi, Brother Tian, sister-in-law. Seeing Lin Tian, little Ruashian, and Wu Yi return to the village, many people in the village warmly greeted them. Lin Tian nodded to everyone, and then said to a young man named Erju, Next, Wu Yi and I will go to the various ominous mountains in this world. During this time, you guys protect the village. Over the years, as his cultivation gradually recovered, he had engraved many killing formations around the village. If ordinary beasts came to the village to cause trouble, they would definitely be killed in the blink of an eye. Even so, if he wanted to leave, he still had to inform the people in the village and remind them to be careful. Brother Tian, don't worry. We will definitely protect the village, the young man named Erju said solemnly. Now everyone in the village knew about cultivation, and they all knew that Lin Tian was extraordinary. Therefore, although the ominous mountains in this world were very dangerous, they were very relieved. Lin Tian nodded, patted Erju's shoulder, and returned to his house with Wu Yi and little Ruashian. In the blink of an eye, the night passed quickly. The next day, when the sun had just risen, Lin Tian and Wu Yi walked out of the village and entered the ominous mountains that were filled with savage beasts. They wanted to understand the true strength of the savage beasts in this world so that they could make various preparations to protect the village. Then, they left with Wu Yi and little Ruashian. As they walked through the ominous mountains, he saw too many savage beasts. There were even immortal realm demonic beasts in the ominous mountains. Among them, the immortal realm beast kings in several ominous mountains attacked him, but the result was naturally tragic. All the beast kings that attacked him were suppressed by him with a raise of his hand. During this process, Wu Yi and little Ruoxian were together. They would not teach little Ruoxian cultivation now, but when he fought with the savage beasts, they could still let the little girl watch. Time passed quickly, and soon 6 months had passed. In these 6 months, Lin Tian, little Ruoxian, and Wu Yi walked through the countless ominous mountains in this desolate world. On this day, they arrived at the most vast and infamous ominous mountain in this desolate world. It was also the last ominous mountain that they did not set foot on in this desolate world. He brought little Ruoxian and Wu Yi into this ominous mountain. Not long after they entered, the entire ominous mountain shook violently. There was a turbulent, demonic aura, and a dense pack of savage beasts rushed out, forming a black mass. There were 3 transformed savage beasts as the leaders. The 3 leaders were surrounded by the aura of half-step Nirvana realm. I heard that recently, a few humans have entered the demon mountains and suppressed many immortal realm beast kings. They are very powerful. Is it you guys? One of the beast kings sneered and stared at Lin Tian and the other 2. I will devour you. As it spoke, it immediately attacked. At the same time, the other 2 beast kings attacked together. Each of them released a powerful, demonic aura and suppressed the 3 of them. But the outcome was naturally very lamentable. After he married Wu Yi, his cultivation had already recovered completely in over 6 years of time. Presently, he was at the peak of the initial stage of the true God realm, and he might step into the intermediate stage of the true God realm at any moment. So how could a few half-step rebirth realm ferocious beasts be a match for him? He raised his hand and swept the 3 beast kings away. They crashed through dozens of ancient trees and fell to the ground in the distance. They did not move and did not stand up again. He didn't slap them to death directly, because that would cause a lot of blood to splatter. Little Ruoxian was traveling with him and Wu Yi. The little fellow was still young, and he didn't want the little fellow to see too much blood. Father is so powerful, little Ruoxian said with admiration. Ruoxian will be this powerful in the future. No, she will be even more powerful than this, Lin Tian said with a smile. He did not care about the terrified expressions of the savage beasts in the demon mountains. He carried little Ruoxian and left with Wu Yi. Soon, they returned to the village. In 6 months, he thoroughly understood the strength of the savage beasts in this world. With the killing array he engraved outside the village, it was definitely enough to protect the village. In this world, no savage beasts could threaten the village. If all the savage beasts in this world attacked the village together, they would all be destroyed in the blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye, another 6 months had passed. He used special treasures to increase the strength of many young adults in the village. A few of them reached the Emperor realm, which was enough to protect the village. Moreover, on this day, he dug up a total of 180,000 nameless tombs in the mountains outside the village. The 180,000 creatures he killed by mistake, he didn't know their names, but he erected tombstones for every single one of them. Chapter 1807. Hearing that Lin Tian was about to leave this world, everyone in the village was very reluctant to part with him. However, they had known for a long time that Lin Tian did not belong to this world. He had entered this world by accident. They also knew that Lin Tian was not an ordinary person. Lin Tian had a vaster world that belonged to him. Brother Tian, we will work hard to cultivate and become stronger. We will follow in your footsteps in the future and fight for you. A group of young people in the village clenched their fists and said. Lin Tian shook his head. Your responsibility is to protect the village and the other humans in this world. Protect the village and this world. Follow Brother Tian. It's all the same. We have to do it. The young people in the village said seriously. Lin Tianwei smiled and did not say anything else. He looked at the 180,000 nameless tombs outside the village and asked the young people in the village to help him take care of these tombs. Finally, he waved goodbye to everyone in the village. A faint, golden divine light flashed around him, enveloping Wu Yi and little Ruoxian, and disappeared in an instant. The people in the village stared blankly at Lin Tian, Wu Yi, and little Ruoxian as they disappeared. They only came back to their senses after dozens of breaths. To the people in the village, Lin Tian meant too much. Work hard to cultivate, become stronger, become even stronger. In the future, as long as we can do something for Brother Tian, we will not have wasted our time in this world. A young man clenched his fists and said. The void was dark. Lin Tian left the village with Wu Yi and little Ruoxian. They traveled through the void. Not long after, a faint light flashed, and the three of them appeared in the starry sky. It's so beautiful. Little Ruoxian's eyes were very bright. The little girl grew up with Lin Tian and Wu Yi. Although she had not started cultivating, she knew about cultivation and had come into contact with it a lot. Therefore, she was not shocked to appear in the starry sky. In fact, the little fellow was only 6 years old now. A 6-year-old child would feel curiosity and novelty towards all kinds of strange things and would rarely feel shock. Not as beautiful as your mother, Lin Tian said to the little fellow with a smile. Little Ruoxian nodded without hesitation. She felt that Lin Tian's words were the truest truth in the world. She hugged Wu Yi's arm and said, Mother is the most beautiful. You're the prettiest. Lin Tian smiled even wider and rubbed the little girl's head lovingly. Wu Yi didn't smile as brightly as Lin Tian, but there was also a gentle smile on her face. Let's go. Lin Tian Dao. He raised his hand and tore open a space tunnel, leading Wu Yi and little Ruoxian into it. In the next moment, they appeared in front of a colorful planet. It was the ancient planet of the 10 Directions Heaven Domain. With his current true immortal realm cultivation base, it wasn't difficult for him to tear open a space tunnel in the starry sky and appear in front of a specific planet. At this time, looking at the huge planet in front of him, his eyes couldn't help but intertwine with a faint light. After failing the tribulation, he lost all his cultivation base and forgot about the important people. Now, after 10 years, he returned to this place again. He suddenly had a feeling of being separated from this world, and his heart was full of emotions. He took a deep breath and calmed down a little. Then, with Wu Yi and little Ruoxian, he directly broke through the ancient planet's barrier and appeared in the 10th heaven of the 10 Directions Heaven Domain. After that, he tore open a space tunnel again and appeared in the 9th heaven. Let's go to Ethereal Mountain first, he said to Wu Yi. With their current cultivation base, they just took a simple step and arrived at Ethereal Mountain in the 9th heaven in the blink of an eye. Ethereal Mountain was full of immortal energy, and ancient trees were everywhere. Lin Tian, Wu Yi, and little Ruoxian soon arrived at the main peak of Ethereal Mountain. The air on the main peak of Ethereal Mountain was very good, and it was exceptionally quiet. Where a little Violet, AI, and ZU. Lin Tian looked around. Wu Yi was the master of Ethereal Mountain. Violet Fairy and AI also lived here. Later, Violet Fairy's younger sister, ZU, also lived here. Of course, and Shui, who liked and worshipped Wu Yi and refused to leave this place. They usually lived in this place, but now that they came back, they didn't see anyone. They want to look for you, Wu Yi said softly. 10 years ago, Lin Tian disappeared, and all his acquaintances in the 10 Directions Heaven went to look for Lin Tian. Violet Fairy and the others were no exception. Lin Tian suddenly understood and sighed. Sorry for the trouble. Wu Yi didn't say anything. He pulled little Ruoxian to a small courtyard on Ethereal Mountain. In the center of the courtyard, there was a small pure white jade platform on a wooden table. It was left behind by Violet Fairy. Whoever found Lin Tian first and returned here would use this jade platform to cast a spell. The small jade talismans that corresponded to this jade platform on the others would react. Wu Yi's hand glowed faintly. He tapped the jade platform lightly, and wisps of faint divine light flashed and disappeared. Time flew, and an hour passed in the blink of an eye. An hour later, a bright divine light flashed, intertwined with astonishing demonic power, rushed into Ethereal Mountain from outside. Brother! With a surprised and excited voice, A girl who looked to be 11 or 12 years old rushed here, threw herself in front of Lin Tian, and hung on Lin Tian's neck. She was the master of the Demon King Palace in the 10 Directions Heaven, Violet Fairy. Sorry to make you worry. Lin Tian chuckled. For the past 10 years, Violet Fairy had been looking for him outside. I'm so glad you're okay. Violet Fairy hugged him and said, tears even flashing in her eyes. When she first learned from Wuxing Crocodile that Lin Tian had failed to pass the tribulation and disappeared, she was so scared that she almost fainted. Now that she saw Lin Tian standing in front of her safe and sound, she was naturally very happy. Just a moment ago, she was still looking for Lin Tian all over the world. Suddenly, the small jade talisman that was related to the jade platform reacted. She was surprised and happy, and immediately returned to Ethereal Mountain as fast as she could. I'm fine. Lin Tian smiled. Violet Fairy nodded and let go of Lin Tian's neck. She wiped the tears from her eyes and then looked at Wu Yi. Little Yi was the first to find Big Brother. I knew it would be like this. She looked at Wu Yi and smiled. Then she saw the delicate little Ruoxian beside Wu Yi. She was a little curious. Little Yi, who is this? Wu Yi pulled the little Ruoxian and nodded slightly to Violet Fairy. Then he said to the little Ruoxian, call her Aunt. Aunt. The little Ruoxian was very obedient. She looked at Violet Fairy and called out sweetly. Violet Fairy was stunned. Hearing Wu Yi's words and hearing the little Ruoxian call her aunt, her eyes widened. You guys, this is your... She looked at Wu Yi, then looked at Lin Tian, and then at the little Ruoxian. Naturally, she could guess many things. Her mouth couldn't help but slowly open. She was really quite shocked. Chapter 1808. The Violet Fairy was shocked. After 10 years, she found out that Lin Tian and Wu Yi had a child. Moreover, the little one was already 6 years old. She stared at Lin Tian and Wu Yi with her eyes wide open. Only after 10 breaths of time had passed did she accept this fact. She calmed down slightly. Then, after a few breaths of time, she truly calmed down. As expected of Lord Big Brother, you actually managed to abduct little Yi. She giggled and looked at Lin Tian. She was a little mischievous. Although it's a little difficult to match little Yi, other than Lord Big Brother, no one can marry little Yi. Lin Tian was a little embarrassed. How could he have abducted her? Little cutie, come, let Annie give you a hug. The Violet Fairy's gaze landed on little Ruoxian. She floated over and hugged little Ruoxian. She rubbed her head against little Yi. She was very fond of her. Then, when they saw little Ruoxian, they found out that Lin Tian and Wu Yi were married. When they found out that little Ruoxian was Lin Tian and Wu Yi's child, they were all dumbfounded and shocked. And Shui, in particular, looked a little angry at Lin Tian. Seeing her like this, Lin Tian couldn't help but feel speechless. He felt as if he had stolen her treasure. Time passed. Very soon, 6 hours had passed. I'm going back to the Immortal Court. After 6 hours, he said goodbye to Wu Yi. Little Ruoxian naturally stayed by Wu Yi's side. Then he said goodbye to the Violet Fairy and the others. Only then did he leave Ethereal Mountain. During these 10 years, all of his friends and family were worried about him. He naturally had to return to the Immortal Court in time and let these friends and family know that he was very safe now, so that they wouldn't continue to worry. After leaving Misty Mountain, he quickly returned to the Immortal Court. Then he found that Jiyu, Bai Qiu, Shui, Sushu, Lin Tian, and his other relatives and friends were not there. Only when he summoned the powerful generals of the Immortal Court did he know that Jiyu and the others, like the Violet Fairy and the others, had gone out to search for him 10 years ago. Until now, they had not returned. The only thing worth rejoicing over was that when they left the 10 Directions Heaven to search for him, they left behind something similar to the jade platform left behind by the Violet Fairies in the Ethereal Mountain. They also instructed the Immortal Court's powerful generals to guard it. These generals also knew how to use the things they left behind, so they immediately informed Lin Tian. Lin Tian did the same. Then, after about 2 hours, urgent sounds of people breaking through the air rang out one after another outside the immortal court. One by one, familiar figures returned to the immortal court. After seeing that Lin Tian was safe and sound, they were all very happy. "I've made you all worry," Lin Tian said with a smile. After accidentally killing 180,000 Saint Refinement experts, failing to pass the true God tribulation, forgetting all the important people, and going through 10 years of pain and suffering, he was very happy to see Lin Shi Jiyu Sushu by Qiu, Shui, Little Taichu by Ziki, and the others again. "It's good that you're all right," Jiyu said with a smile, her eyes a little misty. Lin Tian looked at her, then at Sushu, by Qiu, Shui, and Lin Shi. Their faces were very haggard. Obviously, they had not lived well in the past 10 years. At that time, they had spent every day in torment and anxiety, worrying about him all the time. At the same time, Little Taichu, Wuxing Crocodile, Ling Yun, Yang Qi, Bai Ziki, Fanning Xiong, and the others were not as haggard as the women. However, their spirits were more or less worse than before. In the past 10 years, they had been looking for him and worrying about him. "I'm sorry," he said. "Yeah." Little Taichu landed on his shoulder and rubbed against his face. Seeing that Lin Tian was safe and sound, it was very happy. "Let's go with strong wine and meat," Wuxing Crocodile roared. "Let's go." The White Tiger also roared. Immediately, the powerful generals of the Immortal Court immediately went to prepare. Thus, on this day, the Celestial Court was extremely joyous. Lin Tian's safe return made all the people who were familiar with him feel as if a huge rock had been lifted from their hearts. They all became extremely relaxed. Time passed quickly. A month had passed since he returned to the Immortal Court. In this month, he often spent time with Jiyu and the others. He told them that he and Wu Yi were married and had a daughter. Then, under the witness of many friends and relatives, he held a wedding with them in the Immortal Court at the same time. Wu Yi also participated. He and Wu Yi were married, but he would never give up Jiyu and the others. Moreover, he also needed to give them a status. Therefore, he held the wedding in the witness of many friends and relatives. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, for years had passed since he returned to the 10 Directions celestial domain. "Ruoxian, come and cultivate." On Misty Mountain, Lin Tian smiled and waved to little Ruoxian, who was playing with little Taichu. For years later, on this day, little Ruoxian was 10 years old. According to Wu Yi's intention, he began to teach Ruoxian cultivation after she was 10 years old. "Okay." Ruoxian nodded obediently. She let go of little Taichu and jumped to Lin Tian's side. Lin Tian had cultivated for hundreds of years and mastered many ancient arts. Among them, the arts of the 9 celestial lords were the most amazing. It was definitely the best ancient scripture in the world. He chose to teach Ruoxian the lunar ancient scripture because it was most suitable for women to cultivate. In the following cultivation process, Ruoxian's performance shocked him. As a top divine art, the lunar ancient scripture could be said to be very difficult to cultivate. However, just as he sent the lunar ancient scripture into Ruoxian's heart, little Ruoxian started to circulate it smoothly. She didn't need any guidance from him at all. She immediately attracted all the immortal chi in Misty Mountain. In just a few dozen breaths, she went from a mortal body to the 9th level of the refinement realm. Her body was intertwined with the bright lunar true Yuan light. It was rich and pure. It was almost as pure as the lunar divine power emitted by a true God expert when he circulated the lunar ancient scripture. He was shocked. After that, after teaching Ruoxian the lunar ancient scripture, he passed on the Heart Sutra of Sun, Dragon Burial Scripture, Medicine Canon, for Symbol Seal, Ling Tian Sword Scripture, and Heavenly One Soul Incantation. Little Ruoxian could circulate them freely in the blink of an eye. Then, in just 9 days, little Ruoxian only circulated the 9 celestial lords' divine arts that he passed on. She didn't rely on any treasures of heaven and earth to break through to the peak of the airborne realm. This made him even more shocked. The rest of the people in Misty Mountain, except for Wu Yi, were also dumbfounded. This is simply born for cultivation, Chapter 1809. Without relying on any heavenly materials or earthly treasures, she reached the peak of the airborne realm from a mortal body in just 9 days. Such a cultivation speed was simply shocking to the extreme. A living supreme being genius. And Shui's eyes widened. Lin Tian looked at his daughter and couldn't help but feel ashamed. Thinking back, it took him several years to reach the peak of the airborne realm from the early stage of the physique refinement realm, but this little girl did it in just 9 days. She can be compared with your freakish master. Wuxing Crocodile also widened his eyes. Only Wu Yi remained quiet. He quietly watched Lin Tian teach little Ruoxian cultivation with a very gentle expression. Lin Tian passed all the ancient divine arts of the 9 celestial lords to little Ruoxian. Little Ruoxian could perfectly control it in the blink of an eye, making him feel that he only needed to pass on the arts. There was no need for guidance at all. This little girl was too amazing. Time continued to pass. Then in the blink of an eye, another 2 years passed. During these 2 years, he spent most of his time in the ethereal mountain. Although he didn't need to teach Ruoxian cultivation, as a father, Ruoxian was still young, so he had to often accompany her with Wu Yi. At the same time, Lin Shi, Ji Yu, Shui Yi, Su Shu, and Bai Qiu often came to the ethereal mountain. Naturally, they were very fond of little Ruoxian. Lin Tian also often took little Ruoxian and Wu Yi to the immortal court. During these 2 years, little Ruoxian didn't often cultivate. In fact, she didn't cultivate much. However, on this ordinary ancient star with only spiritual qi, she still reached the eternal realm. This made everyone except Wu Yi speechless. They always felt that they had lived for hundreds and thousands of years in vain. It was also this day, late at night, Lin Tian left the 10-direction celestial domain alone and stepped into the vast starry sky. There were some things that needed to be settled. There were specks of stars in the starry sky. He tore open a crack in the starry sky. Golden divine light surrounded his body as he stepped into it. In the next instant, he appeared in a vast world. Celestial mountains and ancient peaks filled the sky, interweaving with a magnificent aura. Qiyu world, he muttered to himself with a threatening cold light in his eyes. More than 10 years ago, Lan Tianjin, Yi Yinshang, and Yuan Yunfu had attacked him with 180,000 creatures in a space treasure in order to break his mental state and steal the primordial pagoda. Because of that, he had accidentally killed 180,000 innocent creatures. No matter what, he would not let them go. He must kill them. On this day, he came to Qiyu World. One of the 3 people, Lan Tianjin, was a member of the royal family of this world. He stepped into the Red Yu world, leaving behind afterimages with each step. Then a spatial crack opened. He stepped into it and disappeared in the blink of an eye, reappearing in front of a vast ancient city. This ancient city was the imperial city of Qiyu World. Arriving here, he did not stop at all. He stepped on the void and walked step by step towards Qiyu Imperial City. Who are you? How dare you fly into the Imperial City? There were many strong cultivators inside and outside Qiyu Imperial City. When they saw Lin Tian actually fly into the Imperial City, they all had cold eyes. They all rushed up. There were dozens of people, all surrounded by powerful celestial aura, and they all charged towards Lin Tian. Lin Tian did not stop at all. He walked step by step into the Imperial City, and wisps of true God's aura surrounded him. The group of Qiyu guards who had just rushed into the sky trembled, and then fainted from the pressure. They all fell from the void and landed on the ground with loud bangs, creating human-shaped craters on the ground. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. Purple lightning interwove around his body. He was like a god of thunder walking between heaven and earth. Cold air surrounded all directions. He scanned the vast imperial city. Then, his gaze landed on a sacred palace in the center of the imperial city. His eyes became even more threatening and cold. Boom! The sky trembled. A purple lightning bolt struck down with a boom and instantly landed on the sacred palace in the center. With a boom, the sacred palace was directly split into pieces. A slender figure stepped out with a whoosh. Who is it? It was a young man in black. His expression was somewhat feminine. After rushing out of the sacred palace, he immediately scanned all directions. The next moment, the young man's expression changed when he saw Lin Tian. It's you. You didn't die. The young man's eyes narrowed. It was Lan Tianjin, the imperial prince of Qiyu world and the next master of Qiyu world. When he was in the celestial realm, he, Yuan Yunfu, and Yi Yinshang schemed against Lin Tian. They used 180,000 creatures to let Lin Tian accidentally kill them and disturb Lin Tian's state of mind. They wanted to seize the primordial pagoda, but they didn't expect that Lin Tianyi would use their destructive power to break through. In the end, he attracted a heavenly tribulation, which shocked him. At that time, he was seriously injured and fled with Yuan Yunfu and Yi Yinshang. At that time, Lin Tian broke through to the true immortal realm and attracted a heavenly tribulation, which shocked him. A cultivator who broke through to the true immortal realm could attract a heavenly tribulation. It was extremely strange. At the same time, that heavenly tribulation was too terrifying. After some time, he returned to the Lord Theological Seminary, but he didn't find Lin Tian, nor did he find Wuxing Crocodile and the others. Therefore, he, Yi Yinshang, and Yuan Yunfu all thought that Lin Tian was dead. After all, the heavenly tribulation at that time was too terrifying. When they fled, they didn't think that Lin Tian could survive that heavenly tribulation in that state. However, what he didn't expect was that Lin Tian didn't die and was still alive. After more than 10 years, he suddenly appeared in Qiyu world and broke into Qiyu Imperial City. Very good. You didn't die. Very good. It's even better that you broke into this place. You didn't die under the heavenly tribulation back then, so I'll kill you today. The primordial pagoda will belong to me. He sneered. As soon as he finished speaking, with a boom, a vast divine power surged. It was the fluctuation of a true immortal, and its aura was terrifying. In more than 10 years, he had completely stepped into the true immortal realm from the half-step true immortal realm. His combat strength was extremely powerful. As these auras intertwined, the space in all directions trembled. Lin Tian looked at him coldly. With a swoosh, he took a step forward and appeared in front of Lan Tianjin in an instant. He directly punched the other party's abdomen. Puff! Blood splattered, and Lan Tianjin's body was directly penetrated. In that barbaric world, his cultivation had recovered and reached the peak of the early stage true immortal realm. After returning to the 10 Directions heavenly domain for a few years, his cultivation had now reached the mid-stage true immortal realm. Moreover, most importantly, back then, he had mistakenly killed 180,000 innocent people and failed to pass the heavenly tribulation, causing him to lose all his cultivation. He was sad and in pain for a full 4 years. Later, he married Wu Yi. His cultivation recovered, and they had a daughter. His daughter was a true peerless genius. After experiencing great sorrow and great joy, and walking out of endless sorrow and pain, his Taoist heart had undergone a qualitative transformation. It was almost indestructible, and his combat strength was naturally extremely powerful. Chapter 1810. Dazzling blood floated in the air as Lan Tianjin was punched through. His face immediately turned ugly as he stared at Lin Tian in shock and anger. Lin Tian's expression did not change at all. The fist that penetrated Lan Tianjin's body vibrated, and his divine power fluctuated. With a poof, Lan Tianjin was smashed into pieces. Prince, there were many experts in Qiyu Imperial City. When they saw this scene, they were all shocked. Their prince was a young sovereign on the ranking of 100 immortals and was now in the true god realm. However, his body was so easily smashed into pieces. In the next moment, swishing sounds could be heard. In Qiyu Imperial City, experts soared into the sky one after another and attacked Lin Tian. Rumbling sounds could be heard as Lan Tianjin reformed his body in the blink of an eye. He looked at Lin Tian with a cold expression. Lin Tian took a step forward and walked towards Lan Tianjin. His pace was not fast at all, but his eyes were filled with endless coldness. Outside his body, the natural pressure of a true god intertwined. The experts in Chiyu Imperial City, who had just soared into the void, trembled as they could not withstand the pressure of a true god. One by one, they fainted and fell to the ground. This scene shocked Lan Tianjin, who had just reformed his body, because those who had rushed into the void at this time were not weak experts. Many of them were in the half-step to true god realm, and there were even true god realm experts among them. Although they were not as strong as him, their strength was still amazing. However, such a group of experts had all fainted under Lin Tianyi's pressure. This aura made his body tremble as if he had been electrocuted. In an instant, his face turned even uglier as he felt Lin Tian's strength. With a swish, Lin Tian appeared in front of him again. Without any fancy moves, it was still a simple punch. Poof! Blood splattered. Lan Tianjin could not withstand it at all and was directly smashed into pieces. He looked at Lan Tianjin and formed a seal with his left hand. An elixir seal appeared and entered Lan Tianjin's sea of consciousness in a flash. Ah! In an instant, Lan Tianjin let out an ear-piercing scream. His body trembled uncontrollably as if he was being tortured. What did you do? Ah! Lan Tianjin howled. The four-symbol seal rushed out of Lin Tian's body, intertwining with silver sealing light, directly sealing Lan Tianjin within. In an instant, Lan Tianjin screamed even more miserably as the divine power in his body was directly restrained. The pill seal from before was something that Lin Tian had evolved on his own. When it entered Lan Tianjin's knowledge sea, it would produce a soul-devouring pain, as if thousands of poisonous insects were gnawing at his soul, eating it away bit by bit until he died. The pain during this period was undoubtedly intense, and not many people could withstand it. Ah! Lan Tianjin screamed. At the same time, as if they had heard Lan Tianjin scream, as if they had sensed the chaos in the Imperial City, 13 figures rushed out from the depths of the Imperial City. The weakest of them had heavenly god realm energy fluctuations, and the strongest of them was a half-step god king dressed in black robes. Looking at the 13 people, Lan Tianjin, who was suppressed in the four symbols Dao diagram, spoke with difficulty. Elders. Grand Elder. Seeing this scene, the 13 people's gazes fell on Lin Tian, who was in front of Lan Tianjin, and their expressions turned cold. You're courting death. A cold voice sounded, and the 13 people moved at the same time, attacking Lin Tian together. To them, Lan Tianjin was too important. His talent was too extraordinary, and he was the future hope of the Chiyu world. No one could hurt him. In an instant, 13 shocking divine powers intertwined with a rumble, full of destructive intent. It was appalling. I've said it before, it's really good that you came here. The only outcome is death. The primordial pagoda can only belong to me. Lan Tianjin resisted the urge to scream and looked at Lin Tian with a hideous smile. The 13 most powerful people of the Chiyu world attacked Lin Tian together. He was not worried about his own safety at all, and he was sure that Lin Tian would die, because no matter how strong Lin Tian's talent was, he was only a mid-stage true god. It was impossible for him to stop 13 heavenly god realm powerhouses, not to mention that one of them was about to enter the divine king realm. Boom! Divine powers roared, and at the same time, the 13 people arrived in front of Lin Tian. They were only a few feet away from Lin Tian. Lin Tian could feel the strong pressure and threat, but his expression was expressionless. He did not even look away from Lan Tianjin, still cold. Qin Shue pierced through them. He spoke. As he spoke, a jade flute rushed out of his body like a spear, and it traveled thousands of miles in an instant. Poof! 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 13 blood mists exploded in the blink of an eye. The patriarchs of the Chiyu world, including the half-step divine kings, were all annihilated in body and soul. They did not even have time to scream. In an instant, the expressions of everyone in Chiyu Imperial City changed greatly. Oh, patriarchs, elders. How is this possible? The group of Chiyu world experts were horrified. The most powerful people in the Chi-Yu world were at least heavenly god realm, but now they were all annihilated in an instant. Lan Tianjin's body trembled, and he stared at Lin Tian in shock and horror. Yu. The scene in front of him was completely different from what he had expected. He thought that when the patriarchs and elders of his world rushed out, they would kill Lin Tian immediately. However, the outcome was completely opposite to what he had expected. The half-step divine king patriarchs and heavenly god elders of his Chi-Yu world were all killed by Lin Tian in an instant, and they all disappeared in an instant. Whoosh! With a soft sound, the jade flute flew back from afar and returned to Lin Tian's body in a flash. Looking at Lan Tianjin, Lin Tian's expression was cold. More than 10 years ago, Lan Tianjin and the others had killed 180,000 innocent creatures in the space magic treasure in order to seize his primordial pagoda. He had to kill Lan Tianjin no matter what. Before coming to the Chi-Yu world, he also knew that there was a half-step divine king in the Chi-Yu world. With his current cultivation of the true god realm, even a reincarnated body could not stop a half-step divine king. Therefore, before coming, he borrowed Thousand Snow from Wu Yi. Thousand Snow was only a quasi-divine royal weapon, but it was entwined with Wu Yi's power of order. Even if it was not used by Wu Yi and could not display its peak power, it would not be difficult for it to kill more than 10 ordinary divine realm experts and a half-step divine king. Even if it wanted to kill a divine emperor, it would be very easy. He came here to kill Lan Tianjin with his own strength. If others dared to stop him, and if he could not stop them, he would kill them with Thousand Snow. This was his idea of coming to the Chi-Yu world. He looked at Lan Tianjin with cold eyes. The four-symbol seal suppressed Lan Tianjin, making him unable to resist at all. The elixir seal was attached to Lan Tianjin's spirit, like thousands of poisonous insects, nibbling away at Lan Tianjin's spirit. Lan Tianjin could not help but scream again, his body trembling. He looked at Lin Tian and said, Let me go. I will promise you anything. I can give you the Chi-Yu world. Let you dominate this world. Chapter 1811. No one was willing to die, and Lan Tianjin was no exception. He screamed and begged Lin Tian to let him go. Now, a large number of Chi-Yu world's elites had died, including the master of Chi-Yu world and the ancestor of Chi-Yu world. He was the new master of Chi-Yu world. As long as Lin Tian didn't kill him and let him go, he was willing to let Lin Tian rule the entire Chi-Yu world. Lin Tian looked at Lan Tianjin. His expression didn't change at all. He was cold and indifferent, and he didn't say a word. Lan Tianjin screamed continuously. The elixir seal that Lin Tian deduced kept eating away at his spirit. He was in great pain. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. On this day, Lan Tianjin's screams weakened. His essence, qi, and spirit were at their lowest point. In the end, the screams completely disappeared. His spirit was completely annihilated, and his life force disappeared completely. Only his physical body was preserved. Lin Tian made his move. He cut off Lan Tianjin's head with one sword, and the rest of his body was shattered by the sword. He carried the other's head and walked out of Chi-Yu Imperial City under the horrified gazes of the elites of Chi-Yu world. Outside Chi-Yu Imperial City, he opened the world door and stepped in. The next moment, he appeared in the world of souls. In the world of souls, there were mountains connected to each other. The space was a little dim. The most special thing was that there was a faint blood moon hanging in the sky. Lin Tian carried Lan Tianjin's head and walked into this world. He disappeared with each step. Soon, he arrived in front of the most spacious imperial city. The imperial city was huge. Inside, there were shocking palaces connected to each other. It was the imperial city of the world of souls, the Yin capital. When he arrived, he did not stop. He took to the air and directly entered the Yin capital. Naturally, the expressions of the powerhouses guarding the Yin capital turned cold. Quite a few of them rushed into the sky and stabbed Xiang Lintian with their spears. However, just like in the imperial city of Chi-Yu world, these people who rushed into the sky were immediately suppressed by his true god aura. Clang! Lin Tian's gaze landed on a sacred palace in the center of the Yin capital. He raised his hand, and a dazzling sword ray flew out, carrying with it the might of the immortal sword. With a boom, the temple was unable to withstand the might of the sword and was immediately shattered into pieces. Swoosh! 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 Over 10 figures charged out successively from the shattered palace, and all of them had ghastly cold expressions on their faces. Among them was a young man. He was Yi Yinshang, the next realm lord of the world of souls. "It's you." At this time, looking at Lin Tian, Yi Yinshang and Lan Tianjin had the same expression. Their eyes were filled with obvious shock. Just like Lan Tianjin, he thought that Lin Tian was already dead. However, he never expected that Lin Tian would appear in front of him more than 10 years later, and even barge into the Yin capital. Then, when he saw Lan Tianjin's head in Lin Tian's left hand, his expression changed drastically. "What did you do to Lan Tianjin?" His eyes narrowed slightly. Lan Tianjin had stepped into the realm of true God just like him, and his battle prowess was powerful. But now, he was killed by Lin Tiansha. At the same time, the other people beside Lan Tianjin also narrowed their eyes. Naturally, they all knew about Lan Tianjin. After all, they were all old antiques, and all of them were top figures in the world of souls. Therefore, they all knew about the Prince of Qiyu World. Moreover, not to mention that Lan Tianjin was the Prince of Qiyu World, just the fact that Lan Tianjin was in the top 10 of the ranking of 100 immortals was enough to attract their attention. At this time, seeing Lin Tian barge in here with Lan Tianjin's head in his hand, it was obvious that he had killed Lan Tianjin, the Prince of Qiyu World. The dozen or so big figures couldn't help but be shocked. Yinshang, who is he? The weakest of the dozen or so people was in the divine realm, and the strongest was in the half-step divine king realm. At this time, their eyes fell on Lin Tian. Originally, they were discussing something with Yi Yinshang in the sacred hall, but now that they saw Lan Tianjin's head, they forgot that the sacred hall was destroyed by Lin Tian. The current generation's ancestor of dead spirit asked Yi Yinshang because he could see that Yi Yinshang knew Lin Tian. "Ancestor, this is Lin Tian, the one that Yinshang mentioned to you before. He is the one who has the pagoda made of the primordial heavenly crystal. He is also the one who attracted the heavenly tribulation when he broke through the realm of true God," Yi Yinshang said in a deep voice. As soon as these words came out, the ancestor of dead spirit and the dozen or so elders of the world of souls couldn't help but be shocked, and their eyes narrowed. "It's him?" The ancestor of dead spirit narrowed his eyes, and there was a faint light in them. A person who could attract the heavenly tribulation when he broke through the realm of true God surprised him. At the same time, the pagoda made of the primordial heavenly crystal naturally had a heaven-defying value. The eyes of the other dozen or so elders also lit up. "Suppress him and take the primordial pagoda. Don't kill him for the time being, and make a decision after studying his body," one of the elders said. They must seize the primordial pagoda, and Lin Tian could attract the heavenly tribulation when he broke through the realm of true God, which naturally made them very concerned. At this time, not only did they forget that the sacred temple was destroyed, but they also forgot that Lan Tianjin, the prince of the Qiyu world, was killed by Lin Tian. "Of course," the other dozen elders said. Lin Tian listened to their words, but his expression didn't change in the slightest, and his eyes only fell on Yi Yinshang. His footsteps didn't change, and the dozen or so elders beside Yi Yinshang were completely treated as air by him. He just walked step by step toward Yi Yinshang. "You're courting death," Yi Yinshang said coldly. He naturally knew that Lin Tian broke into this place to kill him. However, he didn't care at all. Now, he was in the imperial city of the world of souls, and the dead spirit ancestor and other important figures were beside him. Lin Tian breaking in like this was simply courting death. Lin Tian's expression didn't change at all. He took a simple step, and in the next moment, he suddenly sped up and appeared in front of Yi Yinshang in an instant. He completely ignored the dozen or so elders beside Yi Yinshang and directly punched at Yi Yinshang. Dong! A loud sound rang out, and the fist's momentum was shocking. It caused Yi Yinshang to change on the spot, and his true god-level body trembled violently. On the side, the dead spirit ancestor and other important figures' eyes turned cold. Lin Tian dared to ignore them like this, directly stepping in front of them and punching at Yi Yinshang. He completely treated them as air. Insolent, the dozen or so important figures' eyes were emotionless. In addition, they wanted to seize the primordial pagoda in Lin Tian's body and suppress Lin Tian's research. They immediately took action, and all of them surrounded themselves with dead spirit divine power, pressing down on Lin Tian. More than 10 surges of majestic divine powers immediately sealed off the surroundings. Whoosh! It was also at this moment that a soft sound rang out. Lin Tian, who was punching at Yi Yinshang, rushed out of Lin Tian's body like lightning, leaving behind a ripple, and then returned to Lin Tian's body. Puff! 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 Blood splattered, and the dead spirit ancestor and other important figures all exploded at the same time, their bodies and souls instantly extinguished. Chapter 1812. The old ancestor of dead spirits was killed in the blink of an eye, and Yi Yinshang's chest was pierced through. Blood floated in the air, causing everyone's expression to change. Old ancestor, old elders, Lord Yinshang, this, everyone trembled in fear. The old ancestor of their generation and a dozen old elders were at least at the heavenly god realm, but now they were all killed in an instant. Yi Yinshang, a true god, top 10 on the ranking of 100 immortals, the next world of dead spirits, was pierced through in the blink of an eye. All of this happened in an instant. Yi Yinshang's mouth was filled with blood. He looked at Lin Tian, trembling uncontrollably. Lin Tian's expression did not change. His face was as cold as usual. The 4 symbols sealed trembled, enveloping Yi Yinshang and directly suppressing him, sealing his divine power. Then, just like how he treated Lan Tianjin, he used a special pill seal to enter Yi Yinshang's sea of consciousness, attaching it directly to his soul. Yi Yinshang immediately let out an ear-piercing scream. Within the Yin capital, the experts from the world of souls could only watch as Yi Yinshang wailed miserably and struggled. Not a single one of them dared to make a move or do anything. This was because Lin Tian had killed the dead spirit ancestor and the others in an instant. What could they do now? Yi Yinshang's miserable scream lasted for 3 whole days. 3 days later, in endless pain and torment, Yi Yinshang's soul was completely annihilated, and his life force was completely gone. Clang! Lin Tian made his move, cutting off Yi Yinshang's head and shattering the other parts of his body. Under the horrified gazes of the powerhouses of the world of dead spirits, he walked out of the Yin capital. Outside the Yin capital, a ray of light rushed out of his body, opening the world gate. He stepped into it and disappeared from the world of dead spirits. The world barrier of the world of dead souls was very special. Without a heavenly god-tier cultivation base, it was impossible to break through the world barrier of the world of dead souls. However, he had Wu Yi's Qinxue in his body. With Qinxue's power, breaking through the world barrier of the world of dead souls was a piece of cake. After traveling through the void of darkness, after who knew how much time had passed, he appeared in the immortal domain, carrying Lan Tianjin and Yi Yinshang's heads. He found Yuan Yunfu in an ancient mountain, and without saying anything, he directly killed him and then cut off his head. Carrying the 3 blood-soaked heads, he tore open a world gate in the immortal domain. Not long after, he appeared in another world. This world was very desolate. He came to a mountain outside a small village in this desolate world. In this mountain, there were countless nameless tombstones. There were at least 100,000 of them. He walked among the tombstones and came to the center. He threw Lan Tianjin, Yi Yinshang, and Yuan Yunfu's heads on the ground without saying a word. He just stood there silently, looking at the nameless tombstones one after another. These were the tombstones he had set up for the 180,000 living beings he had killed by mistake. On this day, after killing Lan Tianjin, Yi Yinshang, and Yuan Yunfu, He brought their heads here, bringing them before these tombstones to pay tribute to the 180,000 living beings. He stood there for half a month, letting the wind blow and rain fall on him. After half a month, when the sun shone brightly in the sky, he finally left this place. He slowly rose into the sky and looked at the village. With his true, God-divine sense, he scanned the village and found that everything was very stable. The ewes he had passed down cultivation methods to before had protected the village very well. At this moment, the group of ewes was cultivating diligently. They all seemed very hardworking. Very good, he murmured to himself. He softly muttered to himself, took one last look at the 180,000 nameless tombs below, and silently disappeared above the void. After that, it didn't take long for him to appear in the vast starry sky, heading towards the 10 directions ancient star. With his current cultivation base, he naturally returned to the 10 directions ancient star, entered the 9th heaven, and then went to the ethereal mountain. On the main peak of the ethereal mountain, it was very lively at this time. The violet fairy was playing with little Ruashian, little Taichu, whooshing crocodile, and Shui, Ziyu, and AI were also playing with them. On the contrary, Wu Yi looked at them from the side with a gentle expression. Lin Tian came here and landed beside Wu Yi. Are you done? Wu Yi asked softly. His gentle eyes still fell on little Ruashian, who was playing with the violet fairy and the others. I'm done. Lin Tian nodded. Qinshua turned into a light that rushed out of his body and entered Wu Yi's body in the blink of an eye. Wu Yi didn't say anything, but when he looked at little Ruashian, his expression became gentler. Father! Little Ruashian naturally saw Lin Tian. She ran over and hugged Lin Tian with a sweet smile. At the age of 12, she was still just a child. Even if she had reached the eternal realm, she was still very dependent on her parents. Lin Tian Wei rubbed the little girl's head affectionately. Father will take you out to play. Their bloodline was destined to be cultivators. Since they were cultivators, they must become stronger and work hard in their cultivation. However, he wasn't strict with little Ruashian at all. The first reason was that he loved his daughter, and the second was that Ruashian's aptitude on the path of cultivation was too heaven-defying. He didn't need to worry about her at all. Yes. Little Ruashian nodded repeatedly. She was naturally very happy that Lin Tian wanted to take her out to play. On this day, Lin Tian took little Ruashian out of Ethereal Mountain. Wu Yi naturally followed, while the Violet Fairy and Shui didn't follow. Only he, Wu Yi, and little Ruashian walked through every corner of the 10 Directions celestial domain. He took little Ruashian to all the places he used to go when he was cultivating before returning to Ethereal Mountain. Then, time flew. In the blink of an eye, another 4 years had passed. 4 years later, Ruashian was 16 years old. She had truly grown into a beautiful girl. Although she wasn't as beautiful as Wu Yi, there wasn't much of a difference. It was also this year that Lin Tian accompanied his daughter to 16 years old. Her cultivation was already very strong and had reached the immortal realm. He decided to go to the immortal realm again because it wouldn't be long before the ancient road controlled by the Lord Theological Seminary opened. He wanted to enter that ancient road and find the sword's soul fragment. That thing was very important to him. Originally, the white-haired old man who invited him to enter the Lord Theological Seminary said that the special ancient road would only open after several hundred years. However, things always changed. Not long ago, the Lord Theological Seminary passed on a new message through the Emperor God's command. That ancient road would open in about 3 months. He told this to Wu Yi, Jiyu, and the other girls. Then on this day, he called little Taichu, whooshing crocodile, Ling Yun, by Ziki, and the others and prepared to leave together. Daddy, be careful outside. Don't worry about the matters at home. Your daughter will take good care of mother, the girls, and the 2 beautiful aunts. I will protect them well. Ruashian patted her chest and cutely promised Lin Tian. Okay. Lin Tian couldn't help but smile. This precious daughter of his had inherited Wu Yi's beauty and exceptional talent. However, her temperament was very different from Wu Yi's. She was very mischievous. In the end, he bid farewell to Wu Yi, Jiyu, and the other girls. He, Fanning Xiong, by Ziki, and the others directly left and stepped into the starry sky. Then, he tore through the barrier of the large world and stepped into the immortal realm from the starry sky. He directly appeared in the middle state of the immortal realm. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.